Alrighty, welcome everybody. Oh boy, the day started really strange. I came down earlier today to just check overall the condition of the printers. I do that once a week. And I said, you know what, I haven't really ran a nozzle check on the Pro 1 for quite a while. Well, I realized that some cartridges were getting to the low. In fact, they were flashing the low warning. That means there's at least 15 milliliters of ink in each one of them. These chips that you get for the Pro 1 are not what you would call super accurate. So when they're even empty, declared empty, you still have about 12 milliliters of ink. So they will start to display low when you're like around 20 milliliters. And remember, these hold somewhere around 39 to 40 ml of ink total. I mean, you don't want to overinflate that internal bag. So anyway, I went ahead and took care of that. I was shocked that the Pro 1 did not throw a B200 error at me. I mean, I've been using QImage lately to go ahead and do the auto printing of these purge sheets every couple of days. Then I forgot that I turned it off. In other words, I closed the program down. And when you do that, it's not going to continue to print those nice little nozzle checks. So, or not nozzle checks, but you know what I mean, the purge sheets. By the way, I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Good. I think so. I'm looking at my levels over here, and it seems that it is okay. Yeah. Anyway, so on to the Pro 1000. So I proceeded to do the same thing again. I had been printing auto purge sheets from QImage, but since I updated to QImage 2020, dumb old me, I closed the application down after I tested it and everything was fine. I did not reset my timed prints. In other words, the purge sheets that I had set up. I had a nice stack prior to that. Everything was working fine. Well, today I go to try to print a purge sheet on the Pro 1000. And what did it do? It started to run a clean cycle. Of course, I expected that it's been off, not off, but not being printed upon for about 2 weeks. Yeah, exactly what I preach against. Well, I have 13 to 14 printers right now and a busy schedule. So I did not remember to set up that auto print job option in QImage. Bad me. Well, I turn on the printer and not turn it on, but send a nozzle check from the LCD screen. And I don't know whether you guys or any of you Pro 1000 owners have experienced this weird effect. So it begins to do the auto agitation process, which is the little pistons. You hear it going boop, 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 and then boop, 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 at a faster rate. And then it's done doing that. That means that it has agitated the ink that was stored for the time being in that internal compartment. That's good. That's what I wanted to do. Then, it proceeds to do all of its warm-up procedures, if you will. And then it just kind of got stuck. And I just heard tung, 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 like that. Like a really slow heartbeat. Tung, tung. Someone about to kick the bucket. Tung, tung, like that. And I removed everything that I had on top. Remember, I have my little 3D printer bottle holder and my daughter and, son-in-law and grandson's picture from Disney World. Took all of that off, lifted up the lid, and I saw the printhead assembly just doing this. Tung, tung. Over and over and over. I let it sit. I waited an hour. Nothing happened. So I went upstairs. I said, forget it. I'll just go upstairs. My wife and I went out, came back home. We ate, and I come back down like half an hour ago. And I took a look again, and it's still sitting there, ding, ding, doing nothing but that slight little movement. It's actually on the right side, right over the purge pad. Okay. So what did I do? Well, I pulled a plug out of the back, unplugged it from power, plugged it back up, turned it back on. It yelled at me for having incorrectly turned off power, which of course is what I did. And it went ahead and did the whole preparation again, once again. And finally, after quite a while, it went on the home screen and allowed me to then reschedule or reset another but nozzle check. And the reason I wanted to do that all along was to show you a question on Facebook that was just posted today that had to do with the nozzle check for the Pro 1000. But yeah, if any of you have experienced this weird behavior, okay, please share that with us. Again, that means that you haven't used it for a couple of weeks, and when you try to print something, it goes through all of the preparations. Again, the agitation, auto agitation, and then the head cleaning, of course. Oh, I had to replace my maintenance card, so I'm down to my third maintenance card since I installed this printer. Okay, however long ago it's been. So I immediately went over to Amazon, and I'm going to have to order me a new one just in case, so I have one always on hand. So go ahead and share that with us if indeed you have had this weird experience with the Pro 1000 or any other weird experiences, okay, where the printer may just sit there and do nothing. All right. Yeah, it was really weird, and it did worry me a bit, I have to say. So one thing that occurred during this whole process is that I finally got a cartridge. This is, remember that these cartridges are running on the original auto reset chips, okay, which are not auto reset, according to many of you. I am running, my firmware is version 2.020, which is older than most of you out there. In fact, probably all of you out there that own a Pro 1000. So I am glad that finally I got a Chroma Optimizer cartridge that has reached the point where in a few more days it will be empty. Okay? Yeah. So I'm ready to test this. Now, my hope, well, if the planets are aligned up there, is that I am on an older firmware that may actually work with these cartridges. I mean, these chips. Okay? Because, again, everyone who has had a failure with these chips seems to be running on a newer firmware, and definitely not the newest firmware that increases the length of your maximum prints that you can make. And also, I believe it also allows you to install a lot more media configurations, which I think previously was maxed out about 5 or 6, media configurations, custom media configurations, which is really dumb, if you will, because I would like to have about 20 to 30. Every one of my papers I would like to reconfigure to my Pro 1000. So that's about it as far as that goes. We're going to go ahead and say howdy to everybody here that's here. As soon as I started the live stream, a bunch of people jumped in. So I need to address them. Again, the Facebook group is growing. I'm going to take you, after we get done talking about whatever we're going to talk about, which at this point, again, this whole week has been extremely busy. I have no idea what to make a video about anymore. Okay. I went to my playlist, and I'm going to show you guys all of this. I'm going to be very transparent with you all. I'm going to show you my playlist. I'm going to show you my analytics. I'm going to show you as much as I can show you without getting too personal. And that's going to sort of give you an idea about what else could I possibly cover. Okay. Other than possible, maybe how-to tutorials about editing and that sort of thing. And you know what? That's really a personal matter. That's really, editing to me is a very personal process, and one that I take that way, as I just said, personal. I edit the way I like to edit. I am not editing like someone else says I should edit, and neither should you all. You should edit the way you feel makes your images look their best. Of course, within reason, because you cannot go crazy with saturation and such. But you know what I just forgot? I don't have a drink for my throat, so I'll be right back. I was too busy with this Pro 1000 problem, which I finally got it to work like 1 minute before I started the music and went on the air. I'll be right back, guys. All right. Well, somebody bailed out already. They couldn't take a 30-second break. Anyway, I have my Goya Cola champagne, they call it. It's like a cream soda. I think Jamaicans also make this, but this is from Puerto Rico. So, perfect. Exactly what I needed. All right. Our first person of the evening here was Anthony Petit, of course. Cliff Fit from Denmark is here. He's from Killeen, Texas, by the way, Anthony. Ludo Paul Eunice had a message and he retracted it, but he is here. Please, by the way, just tell us who you are, where you're from. In other words, where are you watching or listening to from, so that we know what part of the world you guys come from. Robert Smeltzer from Avenue, Maryland. Gosh, we got to get together. I keep saying this and then I keep forgetting. You all have to remind me. Everybody that's here locally, Virginia, Maryland area, just let me know. And I'd be more than happy to get together with you guys. Maybe we'll have some coffee someplace and talk. Bill Sturck. I would invite you to my shop, but I would be embarrassed. Okay, it's really a mess. So I get a lot done, but everything is sort of disorganized. I need someone who knows how to organize printing stuff to help me, not the lady upstairs. She's not interested. So that's out of the question. Bill Sturck from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that's where my wife is originally from. Charles Verbruggen is here from Belgium, Antwerp, and I hope the chat is visible to you. Yes, it is. It is visible to me. Bill Sturck, in fact, I'm reading it right now. So Bill Sturck, we won Jose. Yes, I'm back. I just went upstairs so that I can continue talking. If you guys haven't had this, it's very sweet. I understand. Yeah, too sweet possibly, but I love it. Ludo is from Belgium also. And 200 Mike is here from Brooklyn. Bill Sturck says, hello. I homage 360 photography, Liverpool, England, of course, home of the Beatles. Let's see who else here. We got a bunch of people right off the bat here. This is great. Paul Black says, looking for tips around flattening. Looking for tips about, I think is what you mean, flattening roll paper for use on my Pro 1000 now that I can print long sheets. Well, the best way and the most expensive way, they have I forget what it was called, a D roller, D like Delta, D roller. It was way overpriced. And really all you need is like a window shade, okay, that, the time that you just pull down, and if you let go, it just goes back up, spring loaded. And it's a little tricky because the vinyl that they make these things with is very staticky, if you will, and it can actually put more dust on your paper than anything else. But really, that's the only way to reverse curl your paper that comes off of a roll. That's really it. I would just go out and get myself maybe a 1 inch or 2 inch. Is there such a thing as a 2 inch dowel? Something that's 2 inches diameter, maybe the core of a big roll of like craft paper or something, and just use that. All you need to do is put a little bit of a reverse curl on your paper. If you try to do it by hand, it just makes a lot of kinks, and you don't want that. You really don't want that. Your paper has to come back. When you unroll it, after you reverse curl it, it has to come back nice and flat, and without having any kind of, like dents or kinks or anything of the sort. Stephen Polvoy is here. John Hamby is here. Chris Williams. Paul Black, just roll it the opposite way. Yeah. Again, if you have an empty core, you can do that very carefully. Just be careful when you're rolling it that you're not introducing dirt or something, to mar the surface, because some of these papers have a very delicate coating on them. Chris Williams, again, like I said, is here. John Hamby, speaking of ink, if you use ink from Red River, will that void the extended warranty? Well, what do they sell? Do they sell third-party inks or do they sell OEM? I'm not sure. I never was aware that they sold third-party inks. Okay, I think everything they sell is OEM, but I could be completely wrong. Who knows? But yeah, that would be the case. Sure, if you're running OEM and all of a sudden you switch over to third-party, that's it. Unless they, have no way of knowing. Let's just say, printers that are smart, like the Pro 1000, even the Pro 1 to a certain extent. As soon as you put a single-use chip, one of these Chinese-made chips, the code for that color will be recorded internally in the printer's memory. So if they really want to get investigative, they can look up and see that, hey, this is not a number we issued, so they can easily see. But I don't know whether just a regular service center can, or will even go to the extent of checking that deeply. All you have to do is when you take your printer, for servicing, just replace the cartridges. It might cost you some money, but if you want to revert to that again, then that's all you can do. You can go ahead and replace the third-party units with OEM units, and then take it to the shop if you have to. But officially, yeah, they say that it will disable or kill your warranty. We're not even allowed to say words like that anymore. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, they're just saying, printer manufacturers are not legally allowed to void your warranty unless you can prove that the ink was responsible for the issue. So, which is, this day and age, the inks are so good that they're not going to really cause any damage or harm like in the olden days where the inks were just horrific, and so they would cause problems. We have I just call him Emmanuel because I cannot pronounce Moirot, Moirot from France, from Normandy, I believe. Yeah, he is here tonight with us as well. Great, welcome you all. Robert Smeltzer says someday we'll work out. Thank you. And all of us are a mess in our work areas. When you live it and do it, but we have nice work. Yeah, I often try to organize a little bit, but I come to find out that there's just so much in here that I find it hard to find a nice, concise place to put everything. But it's coming along. It's coming along, so not a problem. Okay. Let's see. Chris Williams says, Jose, can you clarify this? Yeah. Now that I know you're in the UK, I believe over there you have some pretty good consumer laws. So maybe that will not happen over there. But here, you know, these I know it even went up to the Supreme Court. There was a case with HP um, concerning ink in third party type products. Um, there's really nothing that I can clarify legally for you because I really don't know that much about it. I don't worry too much about it, like I said earlier. It's just a matter of reverting your printer back to the condition that it was in originally when you were using it with OEM inks. You should be fine. Unless they really, really want to get, you know what I mean. Okay. I think I will design a paper roll holder for the Pro 1000. Looks simple to build. Yeah, go ahead and do it. I hope you're able to come up with a good design. Because if you do, and it's something that can be 3D printer, can you believe? Can you believe you will be able to sell that to some folks out there, especially now with the ability to print on longer sheets? But the problem is this, that the printer, you would have to basically leave it possibly loaded, because in order for a roll like the P800, for instance, in order for a roll of paper to be left installed, the driver has to have that feature built into it, the feature to print from roll, and in various modes, okay, whether it's single or banner mode. And so Pro 1000 does not have that in its driver unless they all of a sudden introduce that. They're not about to. They already gave us a little extra length, if you will. So for you to be able to use a roll on the Pro 1000, you would have to remove it every single time and reinstall it, because it has to think that you have an individual cut sheet of paper. It has to think that. Okay, and that will literally be measured by the driver, okay, as you're printing. So installing it through the so-called manual feeder, that'll work. And then you can just simply choose that manual feeder manually on the driver, and then set up your so-called custom paper size, 17 by 47, create your panorama and print it. But then when it is done, okay, it's not going to inject it forward for you to cut it. See what I'm saying? You're not going to have that luxury. It will not know what to do. The only way that would work is if you have, for instance, a single sheet of paper that you cut off. So the idea of a roll, I don't think the driver is quite ready to handle that, okay? So that's just my thought behind that. Drone worship. Man, why did you do that? I appreciate that, brother, but really, you don't have to do that, my friend. He just dropped a super chat. If you guys don't know, any of you guys that are here that do droning, that fly drones, love videography from the air, photography from the air, aerial videography and photography, go to Drone Worship on YouTube. Follow him, okay? This guy knows what he's talking about. He is as honest as Abe Lincoln, okay? In other words, no BS, if you get what I mean. Whereas many other channels are just full of it, okay? Full of it. So, again, thank you so much, man. I hope you're doing okay. I really can't wait to get on a live stream with you again, and we will talk. We can talk for hours, man. And but again, I can't believe you're actually even here when you should be resting. But anyway, hey, take care, my friend. Chris Williams. To John Harnby, I would like to see that. Yeah. But again, it's going to be a difficult one to conquer, in other words, because of those reasons. The driver will go nuts trying to use that roll, okay? Because I believe what will happen when that print is done and it tries to eject the paper, you know, when you get done printing, okay? Say you print a 17 by 22, and that's the paper size you choose, and you're done printing. the paper is ejected. Okay, and the sensors that sense the presence of paper under the printer platen will never sense that paper has left. It will sense a continuous roll of paper. You know what will happen? It'll continually spit out paper. It's waiting for the end, the trailing edge of that paper. You get me? So unless the driver is programmed to print a 17 by 40, and once it's done, it advances it, say 5 extra inches, you cut it off, and then you retract it back to the position where you can then proceed to print again. That's what the P800 does. Okay, the P800's driver is programmed for that roll adapter that you buy, okay, which is a fabulous piece of kit. All right. So it knows if you set it at single prints mode, it will print that image, whatever size you chose. Okay. And once it is done, once it laid down that last bit of ink, you now have a border. And say you have a 1-inch border, it'll go beyond that 1 inch. It'll print a cut line for you. And then it will advance that paper 4 or 5 inches, and then you go ahead and trim it right along that cut line, press OK, or done, and it will just retract the paper back to a starting position that's already preloaded. In other words, you don't have to reload the paper like you would have to with a hacked, if you will, Pro 1000. Yeah. At this point, the driver just cannot handle a roll, period. Okay, it just cannot. Unless you, the only way would be, and my goodness, I just can't imagine how you would go about this. Use Q image, use roll mode in one print after the other. In other words, load up about, say, 10 images you're going to print, have them all print. But again, like I said, once you get to that last print, it's looking for a physical edge. It's looking for a physical edge. And if it does not see it, it's just going to continue spitting out the paper, thinking, hey, I'm waiting for the edge to come out. Then the sensor will detect that edge, and it will stop advancing. I'm afraid that's what will happen. Okay? And I can talk to Mike and ask him, hey, what do you think about this? Because if he thinks it would work, then yeah, it would be a wonderful thing. But I don't think it's going to. Okay? I hate to say that, but I don't think it's going to. Ian Aram is here from CO Ink Distributions, and he asks, how am I? And I will answer you, I am really okay. I have been so busy. As you noticed, I only put out 3 short drone videography videos out this week. Nothing to do with printing. I am waiting for that printer behind me, right here, to clog up. Every time I run a nozzle check, it's still okay. So I left it unattended. I wanted to clog up so that I can use your product. By the way, what is the product that I'm talking about? So this young man here has a small company on I believe it's on private now on a website, but he used to sell through eBay. He's the guy that I used to buy ink by the bag. In other words, he would dismantle the outside container of some of the large format type inks for Epson, that is, and sell them at a very low price. And I still have many of those bags still here that I haven't even used yet. So he's got a product similar, I would say similar in performance as Piezo Flush from Inkjet Mall. And it even looks like it. So the formulation is proprietary. It's its own formulation. And basically what it will allow you to do after all else fails on a small Epson printer that has cartridges that ride on the print carriage is to physically inject this cleaning solution through the spigot. It will then travel through the internal microscopic compartments and gently clean out stubborn clogs. and it will revive that printer, which I am waiting for it to clog. Okay, it's still okay. Now that the heat is on here, it should begin to dry the air, and it will speed the process of clogging that puppy up. And I will be able to then do a couple of videos demonstrating how to unclog that printer, and then ultimately using his product, which will just do the job. The product comes with a bottle of ink, not a bottle of ink, a bottle of the solution. It is pink in nature, so you will be able to see, again, after you unclog that channel and you run a nozzle check, what do you think the nozzle check is going to show? It's going to show pink printed lines. And you want to do this until you have 100% nothing but pink lines. That means that all of the cyan or magenta ink has been dissolved and ejected, because you're going to use a syringe, a piece of tubing, and literally physically attached to the spigot where the cartridge actually sat. So you remove that cartridge of that stubborn channel that is just not unclogging regardless what you do. You're going to insert that syringe tubing onto it. You have your syringe loaded with the solution, and very, very carefully you're going to apply a little bit of pressure. If the solution goes through, great. You push a little bit, pull back a little bit, push a little bit, pull back a little. This is the same technique we've been using for years, okay? So this is not something new. This is actually something that's been around for a long time. It's just the efficacy of the solution you're using that will determine how successful you will be in clearing out a printer that would end up in the landfill. That printer I found in the trash, okay? And I brought it back to life, again, using various sets of processes, more and more and more invasive, until I got it working. And I demonstrated that in a set of videos that I already have in my channel. So have a look at those. The only thing we're going to do is replace Windex with his solution, Ian's solution. And then we will then show how effective that solution is in unclogging a printer that should really be, for all intents and purposes, in the trash. Because right now, although right now it's working, that's because I've been using it. But if I let it sit long enough, it's going to get so clogged that I won't be able to do anything about it, even using the so-called soaking the paper towel under the printhead type process. So don't worry, Ian, I haven't forgotten you. It's just that I have been, again, so busy I can't even do videos as I in the frequency that I would love to do. And again, that is a new subject that we can hit and cover on video, which will be awesome and should help a bunch of people and bring you a lot of business, I hope. Okay, Stephen Paulboy says in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I just purchased a second Pro 100 and I'm now about to fill with PC inks, as I have mentioned, as I have another Pro 100 that I am using OEM inks on that one. Nervous to fill cartridges. Well, yeah, you should be. I mean, it's normal. You should be nervous. It's something that is invasive. It's something that you should not even do. According to them, you're actually going to invade the internal workings of that cartridge. You know, you may have a problem afterwards. You may not. You may not. It might work. And I don't want to scare anybody from doing it, but it takes some skill to do it correctly. I don't have a CLI 42 with me, but I have a CLI 8, which is basically the body's identical. The only thing that's different is the chip. This chip is for the old 9000 Mark II. And so, again, all you have to do is remove the ball, okay, and then very carefully, using a pointy little, they give you a little, like an eye screw, and you just, like the type that you put behind a frame, you put a couple of them and then wrap some wire around like the artist shops do, the framing shops. And simply all you're going to do is you're going to score around the area where the ball resides remove this very tough film just from that area. You don't have to remove all of it. And then insert that little eye screw so that a few threads of it actually penetrate the ball, and just lever it off. I have videos that show you exactly how to do that. It's not that difficult. Once you do that, then the other step that you must do perfectly is to drill out the seat. Now, what is the seat? What am I talking about? That ball is spherical, right? It's a little tiny sphere, and it sits on a seat that is also spherical. And so it's just floating. It can actually rotate on that little seat. You don't see it now because I've removed it, okay? This is the plug right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to drill it out with a 5/32 inch diameter drill. Very carefully. Make sure this is exactly perpendicular when you drill it, okay? I can actually do it by hand. I have a little drill that size on a little mandrel that I made in my machine shop, and I can just basically manually screw it. Now, don't worry about chips getting in, because what happens is that the drill helix is reverse. So chips actually go out. They don't get pushed in. They get pulled out. So that should not be a problem. And even if you got 1 or 2 little chips in there, they float. So they're not going to get to the very bottom little tiny hole right here where the ink enters the sponge at the very bottom of the liquid chamber. That's where the transfer of ink from here gets transferred over here, okay? So when should you do this? Well, you know what I suggest you do? Even though I already explained the most important part for you, just buy a set of already processed inks from the link that I have in my descriptions, okay? Rick is, I forget his last name, but Rick has a store on eBay. I have the link on my descriptions. $60. Just spend the $60. You will never regret it. And he will send you 8 already processed, completely modified, expertly, and flushed to the point where it's just pristine white like these are. And all you have to do at this point is to reset them with the resetter that you buy from Precision Colors, and then just go ahead and fill them. You will also receive the little orange clips, not the original factory ones, but the third-party ones that are really, really good. And the plugs, better plugs than these, okay? The white plugs that are really, really slightly larger diameter than they really should be, so they seal really well. For those of you who have done the process and maybe the hole's a little bit too big diameter-wise, these plugs will actually seal that hole. What happens if you do not have a good seal here? Well, you know how you test a cartridge for flow rate? You remove the bottom clip, you fill it up with ink, you let it saturate the sponge. It's ready to be used, right? You take this plug out, you hold it over a paper cup or whatever, and at this point, ink should just start dripping like 2 drops a second, about that. If it does that continually and you see that the ink is dropping, that means that ink is actually transferring into the sponge area and directly coming out of the bottom. That's what you want. Now, if the ink does not drip, then you have some kind of flow problems. You may have air in the sponge. You may have some other problems. Maybe your serpentine vent, maybe you flooded that with ink by overfilling it. You could have done that. You know how you get rid of that? It's really nasty, okay? I haven't figured out any better way of doing this. This is the area where the serpentine vent, and by serpentine, I mean that it's zigzaggy, okay? It begins here and it works all the way into this area here, and it allows air to enter the sponge. Okay, so what happens? You get ink into that vent, and it just forms an ink block, a liquid block, if you will. Here's what you got to do. Hold it over a cup, remove the bottom clip, keep this plugged in, and blow a little bit. You'll get ink all over your face, all over your mouth as well. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. What that will do is force air in there, your breath, and it will push out any ink that's in that vent, and now you will reestablish your ink flow. Okay. You need air replacing the space where ink once resided, here and here. So just buy the pre-modified kit set of cartridges, $60. I tell you, there's no way I'm going to go through the process. And besides, you know how long it takes to bring this down to 13.7 or whatever it is grams, so that there's no water, moisture in the sponge, so that ink can then readily flow into it. It takes like 2 to 3 days drying. Are you going to let your printer sit for that long? Of course not. It really isn't worth the effort. Okay. So what he does is you can actually, send him your empties, and, he will replace them with processed ones for a fee, of course, or just order the whole set. And then at your leisure, as you use up your own original inks, you will have already a full set ready to go in your printer. You can replace each one at a time if you wish. And then at your leisure, go ahead and play around and figure out the process yourself. Make sure that you can do it exactly the same way every single time. Okay. And that's where that's a secret. You need to be really super, not only efficient at it, but consistent. So it's like making cookies, and you have a recipe, but you really don't follow the recipe every single time you make a batch. And every time you make them, they're slightly different. You see, consistency. We need absolute consistency when we do printing, as well as, modifying these cartridges. We're really hacking them. We're not supposed to do that, folks. Okay, remember, your results may vary, and again, it's on your own. You are on your own when you approach this. Okay, it's not something that officially is recommended. So. But, if you do it correctly, it'll work. I mean, I've been printing on using the same cartridges for, gosh, it's over 6 years now. August this year was 6 years from the day I set up the printer. In fact, my setup video's got an August date on it. Okay. Chris Williams says, can you give some advice about what color settings to use on Photoshop? I shoot weddings. I don't know what you mean by color settings, Chris. Edit in Lightroom, then finish and print in Photoshop. Why would you do that when Lightroom prints probably better than Photoshop? And I'm not sure whether to let my printer manage colors. Okay, I think you are in a point where you just need to learn a little bit. Okay, so all I can suggest at this point, without going into a 1 hour long, set of instructions here, is to go take a look at my videos on color management. I have a playlist that covers only photo management type subjects. And later on, I'm going to show you how to navigate through my channel, because Drone Worship has over, 1,100 videos. I think I'm about 1,350. I'm a little bit ahead of him, but again, that's a lot of videos, a lot of subjects. But the thing is, I've categorized them in playlists, so you can go ahead and look at that. In fact, I got videos specifically about wedding photography. Okay, so all I can tell you is that from what you worded here, it sounds like you're not quite, there yet as far as exactly knowing what color managed workflow is when it comes to printing. Again, so all I can suggest at this point, without making this, all night long, is to go ahead and have a look at my videos that I've already made. And that was a subject that I was going to begin with, because at this point, all of this stuff, everything about color management, everything, it doesn't change. Okay, that has been established years ago, the process, and it really doesn't change regardless of model printer. Okay, I don't care what new fangled printer comes out, this year or next year, it will still be handled the same way. It will still be used the same way. If you have not calibrated your monitor, then all bets are off. So Chris, the first thing you need to do is calibrate your monitor. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. I hope I can do all of this tonight. But again, it's just like I did the first 2 years that I did this, and it's been 20 years now. So I was lost, completely lost. And it took me that long to kind of get a grasp of what I really needed to learn, what was important and just what was not. I was wasting my time on many unimportant aspects of this craft, and that was driving me nuts. And so finally I started to sort of, hey, stop being so stubborn, Joe, and start listening to people who know more than you. And I'm not saying I know more than any of you here. Of course I don't. But again, I've been at this for a good 20 years, so I know what works and what doesn't work. And the goal of this whole channel, this whole little escapade that we have here, is to get you to the point where you can produce repeatedly and consistently what you see on your monitor to a certain extent. Okay, I'm talking about color rendition and, you know, brightness. In other words, I don't want your prints to look 2 or 3 f-stops darker than your monitor. Okay, I of course I know exactly what causes that. Okay, so that is the thing that I teach, and that is the thing that I want you, if you get, you know, if you want to really learn, take a look at my videos, choose the correct playlist, one that addresses what you think you want to answer, and then have a look inside that playlist for all of the videos that I produced. And again, you might have to go from a couple of videos because what I produce here may be related to this one as well. So you may have to look at both, or maybe more, hopefully more. That helps the channel a lot as well. All right, we are dropping people like flies. I don't know what's going on. 21 people only. Wow, man, that's not so good. All right. I guess everybody else is printing perfect images. And if that's the case, then hey, that's awesome. Let's keep the ones that need help. You guys that need help, have questions to ask, or have been wondering, why the heck is this happening? You know, why am I getting these types of results? You're in the right place. Go ahead and post your questions tonight. Like I said, this past week I really didn't get a chance to research to see what should I discuss this Saturday. You know, I really didn't have the time. And again, I thought I may have discussed just about everything. I don't want to repeat myself over and over and over. Although we do have new faces here, and you know that would be okay. But I just don't want to do that. I don't want to, you know, make people go, "Oh my God, Jose is talking the same thing all over again, beating a dead horse." Even better, you know. So anyway, John Fletcher from Nottingham, England is here, of course. Drone Worship says, I am feeling myself. I like to purchase cheap ink, bright colors, and pour them in the gas tank in my car. There's nothing better than driving down the road and pink exhaust. Yeah, that's funny as can be. Yeah. Except even cheap ink is expensive, man. Yeah. Chris Williams, word of the day, efficacy. Yes. You know what? Remember, guys, this is my second language. And so I may use words that sound big and important. And maybe I'm actually misusing them. So I think efficacy means efficiency, maybe. Okay, Levite Apparel just got 199 subscribers. Thanks. Awesome. I told you, man, you'd be okay. Yeah, just keep at it. Keep at it. Keep plugging. We're going to talk a little bit about, you know, how this platform works as well at the end. If you guys are still hanging here, I'm going to take you inside my analytics and show you what's going on so you guys know. Chris Williams says, Drone Worship also, stop feeling yourself. Stop feeling yourself? I don't know what that means, man. Levite Apparel just smashed the like button. Aram, that's correct. Make sure that no increased size within the air inlets. As Jose said, it's very important. Yes. And that can happen with refillable cartridges, say for Epson as well, like these R3000 ones. You need ink flowing out and you need air flowing in. So anytime you disrupt that, then ink cannot flow out. And if ink cannot flow out, you got a problem, especially with Canon printers. All right, JK says, Jose, how much better is the Color Monkey over the Spyder Pro? Much better. I don't want to sound like I'm a fanboy, but the reality is that X-Rite is the industry standard. So it is better. The software is better. The consistency is much better as well. And I have yet to hear from someone using a Spyder product or Spyder model, whatever it is, getting consistent results. If you get it nailed down, it's almost by chance, by luck. So we're going to talk about what I just found out just a few days ago, something that I kind of knew, but I have been kind of ignoring or not really realizing that they're connected. This will be really interesting for you guys that are getting into color management, serious color management, and want to get your monitors set correctly. Ian Aram says, color settings, make sure to use CMYK, export to PDF and print directly to color. It's a novice mistake to use RGB in Adobe Suite program. Wait a minute, I thoroughly disagree with you. I would use CMYK if I was printing to a 4-color printer like that using offset printing, okay? Not for inkjet printers, my friend. Inkjet printers operate in RGB mode. They do. John Hamby, what can be the life of the Pro 1000 under normal use? I really don't know. No one has ever told me that their Pro 1000 has bit the dust yet. So I would suspect quite a long time. It's a really well-built machine, even though it has so many idiosyncrasies. All right, Chris Williams, Ian, I thought CMYK was only important if you send your images away to print. Well, no, it's for color press. In other words, only 4 inks, CMYK. Okay, what happens is that the RGB image you send has to be translated to CMYK so I can use cyan, yellow, magenta, and black inks by the printer. But you do not convert your images to CMYK before you inkjet print them. You do not. You create a CMYK file, and then over there at the print shop, they will do the 4-color separation, create a plate for yellow ink, create a plate for magenta, cyan, and for black ink. Of course, using a halftone screen. I did this in the Army, okay? I did this in the Army back in the days when it was all analog. All right, we're going to stop that subject because, again, we can go all night. There's some comments here about that. So we're going to go ahead and all right. So let's get out of the chat here a second. We're going to go ahead and jump over to Facebook, which I wanted to show you guys the comment or the post about the nozzle check of the Pro 1000. And it was right below this, right here. Should be coming up right here. You guys should be able to see it. So you notice that, and I'll go ahead and show you this. I might as well show you as well. Actually, no, I'm sorry. My bad. Epson 3880. I saw this pattern and I thought it was a Pro 1000, but it is not. This is the auto cleaning cycle, or not auto cleaning cycle, auto nozzle check for the Pro 1000. Also the 2880. And I am not sure whether the R2000 has this, but the P800 certainly does. So what happens when you do a regular nozzle check, the one that shows little stairs worth little lines broken down, each one line for each nozzle, in other words, sometimes it's hard to detect whether one nozzle is actually firing or not. And so you can run an auto nozzle check. And what will happen is that the printer will begin to try to print one little square, as you can see here, per nozzle. So it's going to make more than just one line. It's going to create a little square that has been printed only by that one single nozzle. If it detects, for instance, right here, you see that missing little spot right there? That's a nozzle that is not printing. So once it detects that that nozzle is not printing, it will stop. It will stop dead on its tracks, and it will then begin to perform a cleaning cycle. And then it will repeat that same nozzle check again. And as you can see, this is the original first attempt. And then down here, you see that it is actually printing complete, 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 and so on and so on. But then he switched over to photo black. Notice it says matte black test. It switched over to photo black. So he got that matte black channel fully printing. And so are the other inks as well. Okay, the other channels. So he switches over to photo black. What happens? Immediately, photo black is not printing at all. At all. It performs another cleaning cycle because it's got to continue trying until it either gives up, and it will give up after a certain amount of time, or it successfully clears out whatever was preventing those nozzles from printing. So here you have now a matte black, light black, light black, and of course the other colors. But look at these smudges right here. And of course right here it says photo black. So what this tells me is that the black ink switch valve is failing, or possibly misbehaving, let's just say. And you guys can see this right on my Facebook group right this minute if you guys want to jump at that later. And what will that cost? How will that show up in actual prints? Say, for instance, if your main black is not printing. Well, it's going to look almost as if it was solarized. If you guys go back, if you guys are old enough to have experienced the 60s and the 70s, and you saw some of those posters that look really odd, there was an effect we used to call solarization, which basically took your blacks and sort of reversed them, so you have like a half positive, half negative look. Well, you will not be printing black, and you will only be printing those dark tones, okay, with your other colors as well as your grays, and you would be trying to composite a good black. Although these examples here are great, the look would be really odd. Now these smudges here, this comes from a leaky photo black cartridge, and funny that it's always the photo black channel that fails. Okay, remember, you're using one single black channel to allow two types of black ink to share it, and so the valve simply opens up one side or closes that side and opens up the other side, meaning you can either print with matte black using that same shared channel, or photo black again using that same shared channel. But when the valve begins to fail, you get a leaky result here. Who knows what's leaking here? But these smudges are a cause of that. That leaky ink collects on the perch pad, and when the print head is passing over to the right, it might pick up a glob of that accumulated ink, and especially if it's not draining quick enough from that perch pad into your waste ink cartridge, and it'll just deposit it right over the printed surface. It's really bad. It's really bad. Not something that you want to deal with. But so far, the Pro 1000, no, the P Pro 1000, no, there's no, that doesn't happen with the Pro 1000. The P800, so far as that has not happened. haven't heard anyone here or anywhere complaining about the new Sure Color printers having that switch, the black ink switch valve problem. So far, so good. So they may have, under the radar, upgraded it and fixed some of the problems that would plague the older printers with the older valve. So that may be the case. But again, it's something that they didn't say they addressed during the development of these Sure Color printers. Alrighty, Henry Stoffel is here as well from Massachusetts. Thomas Backman says, hello, do non-original inks printed pictures last as long? UV resistance, color accuracy, etc. And do show the same color accuracy as ones with original inks. Thinking about buying a Pro 1000, thanks. Let me see, do I have these here? I know I showed you guys this last week. And this is what I mean. People say, oh, you're just repeating yourself. I'll say, well, it can't be helped because every week new people come on board. New people become members of the Facebook group. New watchers are watching my videos. I'm just going to go ahead and show you examples. So, and I have the codes in the back, so I will not share that with you until we take a look at all three at the same time. Let me organize these correctly. Okay. Sunset, very rich in colors. This is Pro Luster paper from Canon. This is printed on the Pro 100, so not the Pro 1000. For the Pro 1000, Precision Colors makes their signature edition ink set, which is composed of, 12 channels. So that would be 8 colors are third party, but extremely well matched to OEM. And the other 4 are actually OEM. So he has bought large format cartridges from which he then, harvests the ink and then bottles it and sells it to you. Imagine bulk OEM ink. And you can actually buy all your colors in bulk from him as well. So, what do we have here? This is the lowly dye ink printer known as the Pro 100, probably the most popular printer in the world. So, OEM. Okay, now I'm gonna line up. Sorry, I moved it too much. I'm gonna line up OEM against Precision Color Signature Edition, and I'm gonna give you the latest with this because this includes it includes the slightly improved cyan ink. So this is OEM Precision Colors Signature Edition with the improved cyan. It's almost identical to the one. It's just the regular Signature Edition without the new cyan. You guys tell me. This is going to be difficult here because this is not a very well color balanced setup. I mean, the screen is throwing light at my results here as well, and so are then these lights over here. So again, not the most ideal condition, but you should be able to see that this is OEM and this is PC. Okay, let's look at another image with a different set of colors. One of the most difficult, if not near impossible, colors to reproduce with inkjet printers. Deep blues, purples, that range of colors. So we're going to put away just the regular PC one here, and we have the OEM here. And again, I want you guys to look at this. This is a show car. This engine has been painted beautifully. It is mind-boggling if you were there to see this. Okay. OEM right here. OEM. This is as good as it's gonna get on the Pro 100. OEM on top, PC on the bottom. Again, this is relatively thin paper, so it's gonna wobble all over the place. PC on the bottom, OEM on top. OEM, PC. You know what would normally happen with a third-party ink set? Some of the other third-party ink sets, you would never be able to reproduce those blues. It would look more like cyan, like a closer to cyan, which is not this. This is blue, and it would also have more of a magenta tinge, more of a slightly more lavender look to it. But again, OEM on top. Let's put it this way: OEM over here. This is OEM, and this is PC. Have a look. I don't know how else to display this for you guys to see. That there just isn't that much of a difference, if at all. So you were worried about color reproduction. Nothing to worry about. Do not stop worrying right now. Okay, so this is a monochrome. And this is where you will see any tiny amount of a difference as far as neutrality goes. The inability of an inkset to produce something neutral. OEM on top and PC on the bottom. Let me angle it this way so you can see it. OEM on the right here and PC over here. Come on, leave it, don't let it droop. There you go. So again, remember, this is throwing colors at the reflective surface of the paper. But anyway, you can see that. Let's see what else we got here. Something really subtle. Subtle color. Anybody can produce saturated colors. But when it gets to subtle color reproduction, that's when you separate the men from the boys, if you will. And this is a lot more difficult to achieve. So OEM on top. This is a dancer. Look at that. And PC on the bottom. Again, I want you guys to look very carefully. And the funny thing about this whole little project that I did was to see what other people would say. And I showed these photographs to non-photographers, okay? Just normal people. In fact, my in-laws, they were part of it. And I did not show them the codes in the back. You see, it says OEM on top. You see that? And PC with new cyan on the bottom. See that? I'm not lying here. And they chose the PC prints. I don't know why. And they couldn't really explain to me why. They just sort of liked whatever look they saw, they liked it. So this is, again, another very subtle color. Strong colors in the background, but she is just gorgeous. And this is where PC saw a slight difference in the rendition of that dress that she has on, because it has some very, very subtle cyan and lavender colors. And he thought that the OEM rendition was a little bit better than his regular PC signature edition ink. So he created the new cyan ink, added it to it, and I swear I don't really see any difference at all now. So that will now be integrated in new orders of PC 42 SE ink set. Now, you want some saturation? Can this ink produce saturated prints? And again, that's what we all want, right? We want those strong colors that still look natural. So I got a picture of a betta fish. You know what a betta fish looks like. Very bright colors. They come in all sorts of colors. So here's the OEM version on top. Let me tilt it so you don't see reflections. And here is the PC. This actually has a slightly stronger black when you look at them side by side. This is PC. This is, I'm sorry, this is OEM right here, and Precision Colors on the right. Right here's Precision Colors. Here's OEM. So there you go. Again, it's hard to display this in this little tight environment here, but again, perfect match, almost. Most people's eyeballs will not be able to detect the difference. Now, why? Why would he have that as a goal? Because you guys want to be able to replace, say, one cartridge at a time. Okay. And that was the reason behind this whole development. It took about almost 9 months to develop this. And so the idea again was to just be able to migrate from one ink to the other without any kind of difference in color color reproduction or rendition. We call that seamless transition. In other words, you go from OEM to the PC new inks without having experienced any kind of weird change in color. And again, going one color at a time is never recommended for that very reason, because all 8 colors are really orchestrated to work together. Okay, magenta and this magenta, they don't match spectrally. They do not. Yellow and this other yellow do not match spectrally either. So a set of inks are blended and made to match, to work together, so that the printer sees them and is able to orchestrate all of those little dithering mixing of dots to create, say, 60 million shades of color with just 8. Okay? It can do that. So you have to be able to produce an ink set that matches the characteristics spectrally of the OEM inks. Okay? Luckily, it's only 8. Imagine the Pro 1000 with 12. Now, longevity. Of course, you're going to lose longevity. Of course. How could you have both and pay, a sixth of the price? Then what's the point of having OEM inks, right? Yeah. You will lose longevity. So what you do is you frame under glass, you spray your prints if you're going to, display them unprotected. You spray them with a good protectant spray. It's not necessarily light that's going to demise your printed images. It's going to be ozone. Ozone is an oxidant, and it will attack especially dye inks. Those inks are most third-party dye inks are organic, and they're not the expensive so-called synthetic inks, which are the ones used by Canon right now for the Pro 100. That's why they cost so much. They're very expensive raw products. Now, once they got the whole formula down, production is relatively cheap. So they're making their research and development expenses back from you, the user. That's where the money. Manufacturing, once it gets done, is not going to be expensive anymore. It's the preparation, the development process that was expensive. So let's just give you a number, okay, something that will last 10 years might last only 1 year, but then if you protect it, you may get 10 years back from that. And it depends on the paper that you use as well. These RC, resin coated, instant dry papers, they're not conducive to longevity. They're not. The Pro 1000 uses pigment ink, so that immediately maybe 10 times the longevity of dye inks, okay? But the Pro 1000, okay, Pro 1000 with its OEM ink set printed on ProLuster, and then the same Pro 1000 OEM ink set printed on, say, Red River Palo Duro Soft Gloss rag. It doesn't have optical brightening agents. It doesn't have any resin coated anything. It has a very good ink receptive coating, about 10 times the longevity. Okay, that rag paper, the Palladuro soft gloss, or any other type of rag, absolutely 100% acid free. Basically a high longevity paper compared to the cheap, I mean that by price wise, instant dry type RC coated papers with lots of optical brightening agents in the coating. That's what gives it that brighter look than a fine art paper. A fine art print printed on a non-OBA coated paper will look more subtle, more subdued than one of these. These always look, several times brighter and more reflective and more, they give you more pop, visual pop than something printed on a nice inkjet watercolor paper. It's just, you will see the difference like night and day. But that watercolor paper, that soft gloss rag paper from Red River will outlast the same ink set by a factor of 10, 13, maybe 15x. Okay? Yes, that's already been predetermined by Ardenberg Imaging Group. So that's where the real secret comes, is the paper as well. The paper has as much to do with longevity as the inks. And of course, your environment. When I did the test, where I actually took, I just have an example here, the standard image, and I printed it with OEM inks on this cheap, Pro-Luster. Look at this, is like plastic. Listen to it. And did one with OEM and then did one with the PC ink set. And then I have them upstairs right now. And they've been there since, what was it, last, I want to say August, maybe? So maybe earlier than that. I don't remember when I did that test, but it's months already. So next August, I'm going to go ahead and bring them down. I'm going to lay them down, and I'm going to go ahead and print a new version with the PC inks. And I'm just going to simply compare the ones that were exposed unprotected. No sprays were applied to the surfaces of those papers. And I'm going to compare them with a brand new printed one. Of course, the OEM one may fade, may not fade. If they both look the same at the end of the year exposure time, then I have to say, well, what if they both faded equally? You see, because if there's no difference, I cannot absolutely 100% say that the PC did not fade because OEM looks the same. No, they may have both faded equally. So I need to create a brand new control. I need to create a brand new print and then compare that brand new print using the same settings. And I'm going to be using QImage, which allows me to go back a year from now and reprint whatever I printed exactly the same way with exactly the same settings. Okay, so that's really a good aspect about QImage, that it allows you to repeat any previous job that you created. And you can save it as a job so you can actually pull out with that job the series of images that compose that job. Again, every single aspect of the job will be recreated again. Who can remember what the heck you set your driver at, a year from now? I have no clue, so I just refer to that. Now, upgrading QImage will not, delete those previous jobs, if you will. And of course, it also has a memory type saving feature where all of the jobs are actually saved for you as well. But you can do it manually. I like to do it manually, give it a name that I can then go back and specifically access that one job. Well, yeah, I can go back a year from now, 2 years from now. If I can leave them up there and my wife doesn't tell me, hey, why don't you take those prints off the wall? Yeah, as long as she doesn't tell me that, they can stay there for a couple of years. I don't care. I'll go back and look and see what amount of fading has taken place. Apparently, my environmental conditions in this home of mine are very good. We just do not have a lot of ozone in the air. So pigment-based prints would last, no problem at all. They will actually not be damaged by ozone as much as dye inks would. So, okie dokie. Let's see what else we got here. It's been about an hour and a half. That's good. Alrighty, I gotta go back a bit here. All right, so we answered Thomas Backman about it was a long, elaborate answer, but I hope that was clear enough. Jeff Thompson says, no third-party inks match the longevity of Canon, Epson, OEM inks. Color match, yes, but not longevity. That was quick and to the point. I had to add a few details there, here and there. Chris Williams says, repetition for emphasis. We love it. Thomas says, thank you, sir. Greetings from Switzerland. David Kosker. Quer. Kosker. Quick hello, Jose from Belgium. Before I go to bed, I will catch up tomorrow on YouTube. All right, my friend. No problem. Thomas Backman says, in terms of longevity, learn this term from Jeff. What do you think is the difference in same conditions? The difference between what? Between OEM and third party? Depends on the inks, whether they're pigment or dye. Again, probably under the same conditions, a tenth less, maybe, 10% compared to 100%. Yeah, 10 times. Yeah. Again, it all depends. I've heard people complain that in 2 months their prints are turning into sepia tone images. And yet they tell me later that they were put up on a wall next to an arc welder in a auto repair shop. Well, hello. What do you think arc welding produces? Ozone. By the tons. Okay. So, and imagine, and a level of UV that you just can't even comprehend. Okay. And then they scratch their heads wondering what happened to those prints. Alrighty, Precision Colors available in the UK? No, it is not. It's from Canada, Ontario, Canada. They ship via USPS mail. But if you want to order to another country, there are 2 links for drop shippers right on the website. Okay, I think it's let me see. Let me find it so you guys can be very clear about this, because there's a lot of confusion from people wondering if they will ship overseas or not. So let's go ahead and just scroll all the way down. Here's the main page. My US and Skybox. You ship through those. If you're going to send something to the UK, that's through which you will ship from, in other words. All right. Back to me. All right. So in the UK, you have Merit, you have Octo Ink, and I don't know of any others. If you want to try their inks, they're not as well matched as Precision Colors. Simple as I can make it. They're just not as well matched. See, Precision Colors may use inks from, say, made by a U.S. manufacturer like Image Specialist, but they produce an ink set for the Pro 10. But he's not selling that ink set produced, that raw ink set, that I'm going to call it not standard, but the what's a good word? When you buy a non-brand medicine, what is that called? Forget it. I lost. You know the word. He would then bottle their ink and sell it under his name. No, he's actually working directly with the lab to tweak colors a certain way, this way and that way, so they match the reaction of OEM to your driver. Okay, and so Basically, they're custom creating inks for him. Simple as that. That's about as simple as I can make it. The inks that he's get are not just the ones that they put out. Okay, generic. That's it. The generic. I don't mean by generic that they're not, image specialists. Yeah, the inks that they put out, in other words, untampered. That I call that the generic ink set for the Pro 10. That's what the European companies are selling at this point. It's not being tweaked. It's not being custom blended at the lab level the way that PC does. I tell you, I seriously doubt I would go to that extent. I really would not. Charles Verbruggen asked, Have you seen your video of the P800 versus the Pro 1000? Doubt about purchasing the Canon because once you install it, you can no longer move it around. Yeah, that's one of the negative aspects about the Pro 1000. It has these vented internal compartments, and by vented, that means that if you tilt them a certain amount, it's gonna cause those inks to leak in those compartments. If you're planning on having to move your printer, then go for the P100. Simple. Don't even consider the Pro 1000. It's just you can move it after you drain it, and then you have to refill it again, you see. So if you know you're going to be moving, then either don't set it up until you move to that location. Mine is not moving from where it is sitting right now on top of that table. It is not moving. And by the way, this is what the nozzle chip on a Pro 1000 looks like. As you see, there are no gaps anywhere. This right here, that looks a little bit strange. Let me point that out to you guys. Okay, right here. This is the chroma optimizer. You see how there's a band that's a little bit darker? The darker band had chroma optimizer applied to a very light gray overcoat. And so that's what that does. But again, it's a very good nozzle check, one that you can visually examine, and not like the ones for the Pro 1, Pro 10, Pro 100. Yeah, Jeff says you can move it, but the maintenance procedure to prep it for moving fills a couple of maintenance cartridges and dumps all of the ink in the system. Yes. It also has a tilt detection such that it will dump all the ink if it detects that it has been tilted past some tolerance. And I don't know whether that will occur if you were to turn the power off. That will definitely occur. It will trigger an immediate dump if you tilt it beyond a certain level and the printer is on. That's when it will happen. But I don't know whether some people have told me that they can turn off their printer and move it again, but you just keep it level. Put a level on top, put a bubble level on top of it and move it to a new table, making sure that you have a couple of people helping you and keep it all nice and level. Pop it back on that new tabletop and then repower the printer. It should go through a cleaning cycle again, of course, because you powered it off, especially if you unplugged it off the wall afterwards. But again, it should be able to be moved. Again, you have to just be very careful how you move it. If you're going to move it and tilt it on its side, then yeah, it has to be completely empty. There is a video actually. Rusty, oh man, what is his last name now? He was here with us last week. Rusty Thompson, maybe? He was here. He's the guy that I went to learn about the Pro 1000 before I purchased one for the channel. Let me see if I could find his name. Let me go on YouTube a minute. because he's the guy that actually just moved it and actually taught us how to set it up for moving, how to prep it for moving. Rusty Nelson, sorry about that. Rusty Nelson. There he is. He doesn't have a huge channel. Let me turn that little preview. He does not have a huge channel. It only has about 18 videos total. But right here, I believe, let's see, Canon. He did have a video where he actually moved it. Gosh, here we go. Transporting the Canon Pro 1000 setup and reinstalling. Okay, so he's going to show you how to set it up for moving and how to basically reinstall it. Let me go ahead and get out of here so I don't get a strike. You know what I'm talking about. Let me turn the volume on my system down. I'm going to copy the link.
Just about, actually over a year ago, I moved from Los.
And then I'm going to paste it here. You guys can look at it at your leisure. All right. We have system volume back up. So go ahead and look at that if you guys get a chance. Again, he'll walk you through the whole process. And again, it's not a cheap process because you're going to empty out whatever. See, there's always going to be a specific volume of ink internally. That only drops by a minimal amount before the sensor says, hey, my little compartment, my little yellow compartment is dropping a little bit. Please replenish it. And it sends a signal to the sensor, the other sensor that opens up the valve that allows ink to flow from the yellow cartridge. I happen to have one here with me. Ink will flow out of it and will then replenish the compartment internally. Well, those compartments always have, you know, a good amount of ink, and that has to be completely drained, as well as the printhead dampers. So once it drains it, it'll take like he said earlier, 2 maintenance cartridges. Yeah, they run about $18. I got them from B&H, I think it was, or Adorama Picks originally for like $14 each. Got them directly from them. I'm just going to go ahead and order it through Amazon so I can have a replacement because I'm on my 3rd cartridge right now. And I just installed it. And of course, I'm sure that it did another clean cycle and dumped some more ink in there. And I will be able to finally test to see if any of these chips reset. Okay. And only because I'm running on such an old firmware. Maybe I'm just crossing my fingers that will be the case and it will actually work. I think Chris Williams wants a beer. He keeps saying, yay, beer. QImage is a separate software program. Yes, it is a separate program dedicated originally, gosh, how long ago? 15 years, maybe more. I first used QImage, and it was mostly a layout type program where you could make, say, on a letter size paper, multiple layouts, like those school picture packages you buy from your child's school, 5x7, 1 4x5, and 2 or 3 whatever wallet size. So it evolved. It has evolved tremendously, and so now we're at the point where it is a pretty loaded piece of software with some amazing things that it can do. Really, really, truly amazing things that it can do as far as, for instance, color management. If you want to see, go back to my previous live stream. And I think I did a couple of videos, also individual videos, that demonstrate what abilities, as far as color management goes, especially those who having problems with color management. In other words, you may be double profiling. It pretty much prevents you from double profiling. It does. So that's no longer an issue. That will no longer be an excuse for your prints not having the proper color. Spike597 from Wisconsin is here. I placed my Pro 1000 on a 1/2-inch plywood board so that I, with another person, can safely move the printer. Only slight possible tilt, so I have never had a dump of the inks. Yeah. And again, I think if you just turn it off, like power it off, you can probably move it. But still, you need to keep that level from exceeding a certain number of degrees. I don't know what that might even be. All right, Bill Sturk, thank you. I will look into getting QImage. Yeah, just go to search for QImage. I'll put the link in here for you guys. Mike Cheney, the author of QImage Ultimate, usually pops in, but apparently not tonight. So here's the link to the website. Again, it's like the best $60-something I've ever spent as far as a piece of software goes. Jeff Thompson uses QImage and loves it. Jeff Thompson says formulation. Bill Sturk, generic. There you go. I was trying to come up with that word earlier. Thomas Backman says, maybe next time, what makes a great print in your opinion? The most important attribute is thinking about showing prints to important editors. What key? Only the content or matching content. Well, it's all a matter of, it's all a combination of aspects, if you will. You got to realize that people see things differently. So what you think is, really impressive and has a lot of impact may not be the case. Mood, color in movies from Hollywood are a great example. They color grade everything. What you see is not the raw footage, the way it was bright and colorful. No, they color grade. They dull down everything to give it a mood. It depends on your images. It depends on the so-called type of image as well. You don't want an image of a soft baby to be sharp and to be, oversaturated and moody in color. No, you want it to be sweet, innocent. You just want to grab it and give it a hug, give it a smooch, So I can't really even begin to tell you what attributes you should go for when you're showing your images to editors, for instance. It's up to that particular editor. You might show him something or her something that will just floor them. And then you show that same image to someone else and meh. It's really that subjective. Kurt Jett is here from Southwest Ohio. Chris Williams, let's see. I say yeah when you take it, when you have it. Oh, okay. Well, here we go. It's not beer. Okie dokie. I think that's about it for the chat at this point. Let me go ahead and do some further searching here on the Facebook, see what else we can talk about before I take you over and just kind of share with you guys. By the way, this is a question that I wanted to ask you guys. Is there anyone here with us tonight? Anyone at all? Let's see, we got 24 people watching right now. And I know that earlier, my good buddy, Drone Worship was here. That's Daniel. And he just had a pretty horrendous bit of surgery. And he's recovering right now, but I know he does. But anyone here have a YouTube channel? Okay. By that, I mean a YouTube channel that you upload videos to. You may not be monetized at this point. You may be, attempting to grow your channel, whatever the subject may be. Just because you're here about, and wanted to know about printing doesn't mean that you may not have an interest such as cooking, baking, and you may have a channel covering that aspect of your craft, your hobby, your interest. Does anybody here have a channel? Please share that with us if you do. And I'm going to show you a little bit about my internal so-called analytics and where we are at and how we progressed to where we are now. I started this when I was, back in what is it? 2000, no, not 19. YouTube didn't even exist. 2009 is when I created my account. And so it's been a while. So 10 years, let's just say. So we'll give you an idea of what's going on. Jeff Thompson says, I have been thinking about a Mac printing channel, but I can't find the time to do so. Well, you have to allocate yourself just a bit of time daily. Again, I get up in the morning, hit the bathroom, do what I need to do in there, eat a quick breakfast. I head on over to my local school where my wife retired from. She taught there for 30 years. And I sit with kindergartners and I help the ones that require help. We have this program in the county here where they're trying to integrate kids that have special learning problems, disabilities into the normal type of flow. And it really creates a lot of problems. These kids, bless their hearts, are really keeping the other kids from progressing because so much time has to be spent on them. So I go there as a volunteer to keep the teacher from having to spend time with those children that require one-on-one. So that takes my whole morning, period. And so I come home, quick lunch, watch a little TV with my wife. Maybe by 2 o'clock, we have to pick up Nathan at his school. I won't be home until, say, 6 that evening. And then I go ahead and maybe I have a class on Wednesdays. I teach English to immigrants, basically, from all countries. And so that's another 3 hours. When I get home, this is the last thing I want to do. Okay? So I'm at a point right now. Oh, and other nights might be some other thing that I need to go to, a meeting, a class, that type of thing. So I think my Fridays are pretty much open. So this is probably when I catch up with videos that I may have to produce, something that I may have to address on video, so that, as a result of a question that I found interesting. And I thought, to myself, oh, I haven't covered that yet. Let me do a video. So I do a video. Then I have to edit it. That might take a couple of hours to get it edited and rendered. And then I upload it. So if I get lucky and I produce maybe 3 videos, I'll go ahead and edit all of them. I'll spend several hours doing that, render them out, upload them, and schedule them to be released or published at a certain day and time. Okay? And that's done automatically. Thank you, YouTube, for allowing us to do that. Other than that, I would have to be presently here to, upload that video, wait for it to process itself within their platform, and then go ahead and hit the publish button. I'll wait and see if there's any kind of problems with it. Usually with educational videos, there isn't. So, and that's it. So you can imagine that, if I wanted to start a channel from scratch right now, I would also say, man, I don't have the time. But, just a half hour a day. That's all it would take. Once you get rolling, you can actually do what I've been doing is, I don't do this every day. I only do this in a like half a day. I'll have half a day free, and I will knock out. You may see me wearing the same shirt, video after video. That's because I knock them all out at the same time. Yay. So we're going to talk about that and show you how to get started for those of you who may be contemplating doing this. And again, it might be something totally not related to our normal subject matter, but hey, why not? All right? It's all about learning. Has anyone used Ink Owl for Epson refillable inks? For Epson refillable inks? You mean cartridges. I bought a used Epson Stylus Pro 9800 that uses the K3 inks. Sure, of course it does. Are they good enough to use the Epson profiles like they claim? I don't know. Yeah. Cone color from Inkjet Mall is probably a lot better. I'll just leave it at that. You guys, Epson users, you want the best, K3, meaning, You know what that means? 3 blacks, okay? So you have a regular black, either matte black or photo black, and then 2 grays. So if you have any kind of printer that uses the standard 9-color Epson inkset, inkjet Mall, tops, that's it. PC, second. Not too far back, but second. And that's been, established long ago, okay? So again, give them a try. They're not the cheapest inks in the market, okay? Give you an example where you pay 4 ounces, $15, you will be paying $27, okay? But again, the results, the gloss differential is gone, it's non-existent, whereas other pigment inks for Epson printers that do not use a gloss enhancer, they will have gloss differentials. So what I do, if I was going to switch over to a third-party pigment ink set for my Epson printers, I would make darn sure that I no longer print on glossy paper. Again, that will then render your black ink switch valve never used, and it's going to go bad on you. So yeah, catch 22. But yeah, the inks from Cone or Inkjet Mall are just superior to anything out there. I am told I am a pro photographer and printer, black and white C prints, dye transfers for 40 years. I have a Canon Pro 1000 that I love, the best printer out there. See more. Let's see. My problem is weird. I was printing some shots from my iPhone. What are you doing printing shots from your iPhone? Or of me and my new husky puppy. On the monitor, it looks perfect. However, my face, hands are totally red. Where? On your monitor? Okay, on your print. Not an overall red saturation, just my face and hands. The rest of the image is correct. Other prints before and after are fine. I tried through PC, Lightroom, QImage, and Canon Studio Pro, all with the same results. Well, if they're all the same, that means your image is just like you see it on print. I don't care what it looks like in your iPhone. I don't care what it looks like on your uncalibrated monitor, which is what you're doing. See, that's where the problem is coming from. If it was just an isolated situation where other images from your phone print correctly, just this one has red faces and red hands, then I would say that it's something specific to your image. Actually, it is specific to your image. Probably all your images from your phone. I can't print out of my Android phone, even though it produces beautiful pictures. It's non-calibrated. What I see on the monitor, on my little phone monitor, is not what I would get on print. Period. Wow. All that experience. Okay. All of that experience. And let's see. I will take a look at that later. So you see, this is why I say, and all of this will be addressed. I would not have to make a specific video to address it because it's just regular color management problems, okay? And all you have to do, if he's a member of the Facebook group, so I assume he knows about my channel because that's how you hook up with the Facebook group. Go back and explore the color management playlist. Let's do that right now. Let's just leave Facebook altogether. Boy, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about tonight. Wow. Okay. This is evolving quite nicely, and I appreciate you guys asking so many questions. Again, let's not stop doing that. Go ahead and ask some more. And just keep in mind, I'm going to tell you my model numbers, the printers that I know about, okay? Pro 1000, obviously. Pro 1, Pro 10, Pro 100. No other Canon printers. That's it. That's as far as I go. P800, R3000, or P600. I don't physically have a P600, but it's the same as the R3000. So whatever applies to that model will apply to the P600. Okay. R2000, the same as the P400. So whatever applies to the 2000, same. 3800, 3880. Okay, and then the 1400 and other printers here and there that are not really, what I would consider top-notch photo printers. So anything else, I can just give you some vague or general information about. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Let's jump over to the screen. So here is my my channel, as maybe you might see it when you are watching or looking for stuff to watch. I'm going to go ahead and enlarge it full screen. And you can see all of these playlists. I counted them. I think it's 59 right now. And they are all categorized. Once I stop showing you, I will come back. How to rescue and revive a clogged, neglected printer. If you hit here, you will play the whole playlist. Maybe you don't want to do that. Or maybe you do. If you click on the other button, you will get all of the videos enclosed in that playlist. This will show you how to revive a printer, okay? This will be applicable to that printer behind me, because when I found it out in the trash, it had roaches in it, okay? That's how bad it was. And I woke it up. There's other printers here included, the 3800, 3880, and the R3000 as well. And guess what? I am getting an Epson R3000. Maybe that shouldn't be in that playlist. But anyway, you get the drift. So say, for instance, let's see, silver base photography. This is about the old style. Epson SureColor P Series, third-party options. At that point, there was nothing available. Let's look at something more general. Video editing, X-Ray Color Monkey and i1 Studio. Soft proofing. Okay, here's soft proofing videos. And again, it's not a ton of them. R3000. Everything here will apply to the P600. How about this one? Epson 3880. Red River Papers and third-party inks. Computer related. Pro 2000. Even though I didn't have one, I cover some of the cartridges and what you would go through to modify them for you to be able to refill them. Printer questions I have no answer. That's a fun one to watch. I only have one video and I will be doing more on that subject. Again, these are just commonly asked questions that, they're just so general, there's really no answer for them. Do's and don'ts. QImage Ultimate. Sublimation process and inks. Adobe Lightroom. Equipment testing, sublimation printing, basic photo printing series. This is what everyone should watch right here. This one right here. Basic photo printing series. Troubleshooting printer problems. Rumors about products and things like that. My rants. If you really want to have fun, watch some of these. And if you really want to find out about me, my personal life, here you go. I have just basically categorized them all in family videos playlist. Epson P800. How many we got? 64 videos. Canon Pro 1, 106. Pro 10, 75 videos. Printing, photo printer maintenance, 19 videos. CLI 42, complete modification process, 31 videos. Canon Pro 100 related videos, 144. That's a gross. Canon Pro 1000, 74 videos. How-to videos, including one from my daughter. How to tie a bow, a gift bow. 581. And on and on and on. Drone videos, 64. Live feeds, I am at 58 live feeds. This is going to be my 59th, and next week we will hit 70. Color Managed Workflow, another must watch right here. Click on this. You will get a breakdown on all of the videos from old at the very bottom to newest. New at the very bottom to the oldest one on top. Okay? And it covers every single subject you can possibly want to learn about color managed workflow. So don't just ask a question before you actually search in here, because it's going to waste your time. In other words, you have to wait for me to answer you. It may take a day, and you need your answer right now. So just simply go to one of my playlists and see if you have a video there that will answer that particular question. I bet you that I probably will. Okay, I bet you I probably will. So just, that's my suggestion for you. I created this channel to help people out, completely help them out, to prevent them from making all these dumb mistakes I made and other mistakes I've seen other people make, and they figured out a way to solve that, and now they shared it, and so I'm sharing it with you all. That's it. That's the whole reason for this channel's existence. Now, let me see if I dare do this. We got 27 people. We're going to keep an eye on the count and see how many people we actually keep here. So let me take you to my channel's dashboard, and that's something only I can see. So this is it. And we have 26,550 subscribers at this point. We've gained 558 subscribers in the last 28 days. Our view count is actually down by 6% the last 28 days compared to the previous 28 days. Watch time in minutes, 601,000 minutes. And actually that's good, but it's down 3%. Revenue is down, 5%. This is what I make a month. Okay, this is before taxes, of course. And so look at this. Views. This video compared to all other videos, not really a high view count, but again, this is all aerial photography, so it's not going to attract the 26,550 subscribers, only a handful of you all. So this gives me a really good snapshot of what this video is doing as far as performance. Now, if I want to look what other videos, let's say you start a channel. One suggestion, one bit of advice, and this is straight from the heart. Let me go to me so you can see me, you can see my eyes, okay, and see that I truly believe this. When I started this back in 2009, there was no such thing as monetization. So YouTube was a platform for people to share their work, their videos, their personal videos that they shot with their family. Some of them were actually educational in content. And so it allowed them to just make their work known. So there was no wish for any kind of, reward. All you wanted was views and clicks, and you were so happy that you had 1,000 people view your video. That just really charged you up, and you made another video that was better than the last one. And this, then after a while, it became a monetized platform, and advertisers were brought in to create revenue by attaching ads either at the beginning, the middle, at the end, floating ads, that sort of thing. And I'm not going to get into the structure of the ad system, but basically that allowed the platform to make revenue, which then they would pass off a percentage of that to the creator. That's it. It got to the point where everybody was doing this. And I believe that it wasn't until about 2017 where I finally got monetized. So that's when it began. So I was spending money out of my pocket to be able to buy printers. I was trying to get them as cheap as I possibly can. Every time somebody asked a question about a particular printer model that I did not have, I would have to search Craigslist and eBay and try to find a source for me to be able to have that particular model, for which there were a ton of questions being asked about. Okay. And I couldn't just say, oh, well, just buy it and figure it out yourself. That's not what the channel was about. So after I located a certain number of printers, I felt comfortable enough to begin producing more and more videos. Got to the point where I finally was awarded the so-called partnership that allowed me to be monetized. And so you got to set up your financial information. So you get a 1099 at the end of the year, blah, 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 all of this stuff. So again, it's like a business. So here's what happened. It became not a fun thing anymore. Okay. It became a must do. So I had to make new content every week to keep that fresh bunch of viewers coming in and subscribing. So that's the danger you might fall within, that you're constantly trying to outdo your previous one. Now, when it was fun and it wasn't for the, monetary gain, you didn't mind not uploading something this week. But now that you're doing it for that very reason, it has become more of a job than anything else. Now, yes, it's full of rewards, but, at this point, I got, well over 1,300 videos. I can probably take a month vacation and still get a relatively good number of views and ads placed. It depends on what part of the year. It's all about, it's the advertising industry. So it depends. Some parts of the year are lower, some parts of the year are much higher rates. And so it's something that begins to get to you psychologically and can just ruin the whole experience for you. You want it to stay fun. You want it to stay being something that you actually enjoy doing and sharing for the sake of the enjoyment, the personal enjoyment you make or you bring to yourself, and the sharing of information. The monetary gain is secondary at this point. And the fact that I get a certain amount of money a month, that just helps me keep this going. Okay. If my monitor goes kaplunk tomorrow, I have to buy a new monitor, and it might cost me, several hundred. So, now that I'm getting into drones, I have to buy stuff to be able to continue to show you guys different platforms up in the air and what they can produce or what they cannot produce. These little lights, if they go, I have to buy new ones. So again, that money goes into the channel. And so if you don't get to the point where you can do that, then you're going to be in the red all the time. So don't look at it that way. Don't look at it as a job. It becomes a job, then forget it. That's not fun anymore. I do miniatures, and I was considering, because when I go to our club meetings, my wife and I, we get a kit to build something, and it's a lot of times the parts are being laser cut, which is a very exact method of producing cut parts. It used to be die cut, and you just pop out the little pieces out of the sheet of wood. Now everything's laser cut. So I said, well, you know what? I've been considering buying a laser cutter. And she said, well, I would give you all my work. I will give you all my jobs, so I don't have to deal with someone else, because I trust you. I said, yeah, but it's like $5,000. Oh, I would buy that. I would buy that and give it to you and have you produce. See, if I could afford the $5,000 for me to just use it for fun and not a job, or I would probably not get paid anything, because she already provided me with the tool worth $5,000. You see what I mean? Now it becomes a job and it's no longer fun. As much fun as it would be to use, it's now work and it's no longer fun. So that's the only thing that I would suggest. And that's the reason I asked if anyone here was actually considering or already had a channel in this platform. All sorts of things are going on, but I will stick with it as I am currently growing steadily. And so if something happens in the near future or the far future, then, we'll adjust, in other words. But right now, I'll just stay doing what I'm doing again. But the problem is that the same thing is happening in the drone world, because new models are coming out, but basically using the same exact technology. They all look alike. There's really nothing new out there. Nothing is performing this amazing feature. Well, the same thing with printers. Printers there's really no new printers out there. Nothing. So since I pretty much covered just about everything there is to be covered, okay, where do I go? Where do I go now? Do I just throttle back and not produce so much content anymore and just kind of let the channel live on the current content it has? Because a lot of people are going back to view my older videos as well, because everything remains relevant. Okay, like I said earlier, whatever applied to a I don't know, the Pro 3800, that is like 10-year-old printer. It still applies today. Exactly the same process is used for the 3800 as you use for the P800. Nothing has changed as far as color management goes. Settings for the driver, everything. Yeah, there's new papers, there's new surfaces, there's new this and that, but it's still paper. It's still photo paper. You apply ink to it. That's it, nothing new. So I'm in a conundrum. Is that the word? I'm trying to decide what to do. I wish, this is what I hope happens, just like we do here during these night live streams where people ask questions. But again, most of the questions that have been asked tonight have already been covered in video. Okay, I've already covered those in video. So unless something brand spanking new that I never thought about, oh my gosh, that's never been brought up, let me address that as a new video. And we'll discuss that and see where we can go. Okay. So far, that hasn't happened. Okay. A lot of times I rehash the same subject over and over again. And I didn't put out something brand new. I just kind of reworded it. It's the same information, just reworded. And what happens in YouTube often is that people only watch the newest stuff. They don't go back to research that content creators' older material, which is just as good as the new material. Maybe the camera wasn't as good, maybe the audio wasn't as good, but the information will be as good and just as relevant. So again, I hope you guys that join my Facebook group can just, maybe I'll create a poll or something where you guys can post specific questions that I have not covered yet. So you will have to do a little bit of work for me and search some of my playlists and see if Jose already covered that. Or if he covered it, he didn't cover it well enough yet. That would be awesome. If you guys could do that, I would be in heaven. Okay. So I don't know what else to tell you guys. Let's see what else we got here to cover. Let's look at YouTube's comment section. I have a Canon Pro 100 and it prints, and the prints are consistently shifted to the right. Okay, now I'm going to just look at one of these here. Consistently shifted to the right. Now, does he mean in this orientation or in this orientation? You see what I mean? So it's all about asking your question correctly, because I answered him and he has not answered me back. Okay. And I think what's happening is, and he's using a Canon printer, of course. So remember that the Canon printers have a self-centering guides in the printer itself. So you push them all the way out. If you push one out, the other one also goes out at the same time. So they are synchronized together. He's asking, can I manually shift one of them so that I can center my image within the paper? If you have to do that, then in your laying out of your image onto that paper, something is not right. You're actually off-centering it. And again, this is done in landscape mode, but it was printed in this mode. Okay, so this was the leading edge, this was the trailing edge. This becomes, on your layout window, this becomes, say, your left margin. This becomes your right margin. Of course, reverse right now on video. but those are usually equal all the time. The top margin would be where? On the layout would be here. That would be your leading edge. This margin would be your trailing edge. This margin by default will always be set wider than this margin. So when you print something where you supposedly center it, and then it's printed and viewed in this manner, then whatever was that trailing edge margin will be wider than the leading edge margin. And I showed you guys a trick of how to eliminate that. Again, all it takes for you guys is, not you guys, but this person in particular, would be to just simply search and find that, how to perfectly center. What was it? Yeah, how to perfectly center and print an image onto a custom paper size. That's the title of the video. Now, if it works for me, why isn't it working for you? Something else is causing a problem here. Okay, something else is. And again, unless I'm standing next to you, he hasn't even answered me yet. And it's 5 hours ago I answered him. So again, I'm trying to help you. If you guys go to my comments section, you will notice that I address every single question, every single comment. Okay? I always address them either with a simple thank you or literally answering as best as I can. So people are asking, where do I buy clips and other paraphernalia that you need for refilling? Since I get most of my inks from Precision Colors, unless some other company reaches out to me, then I will always say, go to www.precisioncolors.com and get everything you need there. You can buy complete kits, so there's no need to, do anything else. Just basically just buy the kit. It will come with everything you need. Have you tried the new firmware update 3.01? No, for the Pro 1000, I assume. And that will increase your printing up to 1.2 meters. Okay. I don't think it's in the US since it's using meters. The reason I am not doing it at this point, until this fiasco happened with the Pro 1000, if you weren't here in the beginning, you don't know what happened. I hadn't used it for a couple of weeks because I forgot to keep QImage open so that it had that scheduling tool, active. So of course I haven't been down here for a whole week. And a week before that, I was seldom down here, if at all. So it didn't print any purge sheets. And so it's been about 2 weeks. I tried to print a nozzle check today, and it just got stuck after all of the gyrations it did. It got stuck. The printhead was just sitting there, just doing this. So I pulled the plug out. Long story short, everything is working fine again. I wasted a lot of ink. And of course, it filled up my second maintenance cartridge. I loaded my new third and last one. I have to get another one. And I did print my nozzle check that I was so into having ready for tonight. But anyway, why should I upgrade at this point? I have a cartridge that's about to go empty on me. And my firmware is tons older than this one. Those original so-called auto reset chips were designed back when the old firmware was in most printers. So I don't know whether even the next firmware above mine, did that cause those chips from not working? Okay. I need to find out whether it was just a blatant, fiasco by the factory overseas, whether those chips were ever intended to work, okay? Or whether they just don't work because of new firmware updates. Let's just say the company caught wind of what was going on. Hey, we'll just update the firmware. Yeah, we'll say that it helps this feature or that feature, but secretly we will disable the ability for those chips to work. Could be. I will not find out until I reach a point where that cartridge is empty, and then I will remove it, refill it, pop it back in. And if it resets, then that answers my question. If it does not, then yeah, the chips never worked to begin with. Okay, it didn't really matter. Then I would go ahead and upgrade my firmware. I will have to go ahead and get some single-use chips from PC and continue to use those cartridges. Otherwise, I would have to go back to OEM, period. That would be the only option. So, yeah, I really don't have a need to update that printer's firmware simply because, I mean, I could do it just to be a guinea pig and find out whether that works or not, okay, and what it might do to my currently half full cartridges that show half full by the chip reporting. I really could care less about 47 inches worth of printing because I got the P800. I can print more than 129 inches. I think that's max as far as Windows goes. But let me tell you, you can create a custom size that's like 590 inches long, which is ridiculous, right? It is. But it does allow you to do that. So why should I worry about 47 inches from the Canon Pro 1000? I would have to then cut sheets and, remove the curl and all of that stuff. It's crazy. So I really, if that's your only printer, then sure, it is very important for you. You should go ahead and do that, especially if you're using just OEM inks. Forget about third party at this point. And you should be able to then increase the ability for that printer to not only print longer prints, but also accept a multitude more number of media configurations, custom media configurations from any other third-party paper you might choose to print on. You should be able to create a new configuration, and then that would show up actually as a paper type by name, whatever name you decide to give it. That's wonderful. I mean, that by itself would allow me to go back and finally just reconfigure a bunch of papers. See, I could only do about 5 of them. Have I shown you that before? Let me see. At this point, I can only do about 5. So I need to go back and look. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because this is like one of the best features. You should be able to go back and say you have a lot of Red River papers or Hahnemuhle papers or Moab or whatever, Ilford, and you should be able to then go back and reconfigure those papers so that you don't have to use a facsimile as a paper choice. Okay, so here we are at the driver level. So normally, say if I'm printing something on a semi-gloss paper, but made not by Canon, someone else. If I'm using a Beretta-based paper, let's just say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and activate my little talking head on the lower right. There you go. Now you can see me. So you can see I'm still here. So if I'm printing on a Beretta paper by whoever, it's going to tell me, well, you need to use semi-gloss photo paper plus semi-gloss. Sure, that's fine, but the problem is my Beretta paper may be thicker than this Canon photo paper plus semi-gloss. Okay? Yeah, the surface is practically the same, or it's very, very similar, and might require about the same amount of ink density, whatever. It's just that that paper is thin compared to my Beretta semi-gloss surface paper. You see? So I need to change some parameters. I need to change it to something that is specific to that Beretta paper. Okay? Not just photo paper plus semi-gloss from Canon. That would be one of those RC coated papers again. So let's look at what I have been able to achieve under custom. That's where all your custom configurations would be stored. Actually, I have 6 here. So I have Palo Duro Etching, Palo Duro San Gabriel, Burrita, Aurora Art Natural, White. That's 285 grams, okay? Blanco Matte Canvas, and Palo Duro Soft Gloss Rag. When I load any of these papers, it's going to load parameters that don't match any of these common papers here, okay? So it's gonna load specific parameters, physical parameters, to those physical papers that I configured, okay? So that is why I'm so into configuring papers, okay? And using, of course, the media configuration tool, which is compatible with the Pro 1000. And what else can you ask for? And by upgrading that firmware, one of the other positives reasons to do so is I think they increased it to like 45 different configurations you can actually load. Right now, I'm limited to 6. I cannot load any of that. I would have to delete something already in the driver permanently for me to be able to load another custom, unless I upgrade that firmware. But I'm not going to do it until I reach the point where I'm going to go ahead and test whether that chip will actually reset or not. And I'm going to be doing that this week. I will go ahead and print something on a big sheet of luster paper, maybe several prints, and until I run out that chroma optimizer. I'm gonna apply full application, and then we'll see what happens. Once it reaches empty, it'll stop being recognized. You'll get an error, basically. It'll be empty, but not empty like a regular OEM. I think it goes into a non-recognition type condition. You remove the cartridge. That disrupts power to the chip. Of course, I'll refill it at that point, pop it back in. It'll either reset or not reset. My other choice would be to disable ink monitoring. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pop it back in, and I'm going to contact Mike from Precision Colors and order some single-use chips. That's the only option I will have, because I'm not about to pay $55 for a chroma optimizer OEM just to replace that. All right, let's see what else we got here in the chat. I think we had a couple of more things here. Oh gosh, hang on a second. Have a ton of stuff to talk about, and a couple more super chats. John Hamby, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, man. And Thomas Backman, CHF20, whatever that is. Again, thank you so much, man. You guys are amazing. Oh, he put you are amazing. I want you guys to see this. This is really cool. Look at that. I mean, how can you not love you guys? You guys are awesome. All right, let me go ahead and cover some of the last few contents or posts that you guys put on here. Let's see where I left off the last time. And I am exploring, just before I start addressing these last few here, I've been exploring using something other than OBS, something called Dreamcast. And I think it's called Dreamcast. Let me see. No. Something, not Dreamcast, something, again, I need to find out. This is important. This is important, guys. StreamYard. And StreamYard will allow you guys who also have a web camera and microphone to join the panel. In other words, what the stream will show is me and you and anyone else who decides to jump in. I will provide you with a link which will allow you to then click that link, and then you have to accept a couple of little questions and you'll be then included. I'll be able to monitor everybody, and I'll be able to also show you stuff on my screen as well if I want to go out of the actual videos of our faces. It'll put you aside, and it will then show what my screen, website, whatever I'm looking at is displaying, and that this will allow a few of you to have a more closely interaction with the other viewers, because right now we don't know what anybody looks like except for me, and you guys, I don't know about looking at me all this time, but I would love to see other people as well. So we'll be able to see other people. Again, you just need a camera or just a microphone if you just want to speak and share your audio input. That's it. Of course, the best thing would be is to have a camera. You can use your phone as well, and so it makes it really easy. And this is what I use when I go on some of the drone live streams, especially my friend Dan at Drone Worship. He, by the way, is down in Tampa, Florida. Okay, I think I missed out a few people here. Do you have a video about how you know so much about printing? Yeah, it's an old one, and I have no idea how to even find it. I sort of take you through how I got into this from about I want to say like age 9. Okay, yeah. I was a total nerd when I was little, and still am. Complete nerd. Long story short, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to address the rest of the questions here. So I'm a little worried about getting into this now. I started interested in photography simply because I met a gentleman, a Spaniard man who lived up the street from me, who shot my cousin's wedding in Spain. Okay. That's it. And I saw for the first time ever really nice photographs in black and white. They were toned a little bit. I had no idea. How in the world did you do this? I thought. Yeah. So he kind of didn't take me under his wing or anything like that, but he showed me. He had a Leica camera, and he had his work done locally. But that was it. That sparked an interest in me. And then my dad bought me a little snapshot camera. And next thing you know, we live now in Los Angeles. I was about 11 and a half when I moved to Los Angeles, and I set up a darkroom in the closet, one of my closets, and that's it. Then in school, I met a teacher who was kind of my coach. They didn't have English as a second language back in those days, but this guy was a Mexican teacher that was working for the LA school system, and guess what he did after school? Photography club. So not only did he help me with my English conversationally, like I do now with my students here, my adult students, and I joined the photography club. OMG, that's it. That's all she wrote. Then high school, college, Army. And originally I was a combat medic. I immediately went to another school, a little higher. I became an occupational therapy technician. And then after that, it was a funny story, but my commanding officer realized that I was probably better as a photographer. They changed my military operational specialty by signing a disposition form. I am now a photographer. I never had to go to school or anything like that. Normally, you would have to go to school to earn the MOS, your military operational specialty or occupational specialty. And began to work for military newspaper. And that's it. After that, I spent 22 years doing the same thing. So here I am. And then I went, retired from the military, worked at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. I did medical photography there, got into lab practices. I actually became a lab tech, and I did histological studies. I was a necropsy specialist for animals. So I was doing autopsies. And that's what we call them, necropsy. That's the proper name. And that's it. I retired from that, and I began to do the channel around, like I said, 2009. It was just a few videos here and there, mostly about cameras. And here I am. It evolved to this. It's the channel sort of began to take off around mid 17. Okay, after I learned and just studied day and night the things you needed to do to allow the algorithm that controls everything in this platform to favor me. In other words, to favor the channel. And we are where we are now. And how did I learn? By making lots of mistakes, solving a lot of problems, and practice, 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 practice. Did I say practice? Practice. That's it. And yeah, it cost me a lot of money. It did. I have to be frank. And so I am probably still paying myself back. In other words, yeah, I did put in that much to the channel. Okay, so the guy that's contemplating a channel, don't think it's impossible. Do it. It takes dedication. It takes time, and the reward will come when people start thanking you for what you just demonstrated. Okay. Chris Williams, I bought an Epson XP 15,000, but I think I may have made the wrong choice as I'm struggling to find decent third-party reasonable price. Yeah, there's none. Okay. Wrong printer model for third party. Sorry, and that's blunt but true. I spoke about that with Mike from Precision Colors. He sees nothing. Maybe single-use chips, possibly. And then again, what do you refill? What do you refill? Not your original cartridges. You can't. Referring to that other thing I read off on the comments. If you're printing photos from an iPhone, you're not a professional photographer. Well, Jeff Thompson, Chris Williams, the best camera for photos is the one you have with you at the time. That's actually true. Okay. We used to say it's not the camera, but the photographer. And I had it graphically displayed to me. Graphically. Do you guys remember the Kodak Instamatic? Yeah. Took little square pictures about that big. Negative. The negative was about that big around. Okay. Almost like 16 millimeter film. I saw a art display of wet prints done with the Kodak Instamatic. Yes, technically the quality wasn't there. Okay. But the composition, the lighting, just the overall mood. If you got past the fact that, yeah, this was done with an Instamatic, they were mind-blowing. Again, the group of photographers that took those Instamatics out to Yosemite National Park, to this place, to that place, they created majestic-looking images. Yeah, they couldn't be printed more than this. Of course not. But again, cameras give you the ability to do things easy. Okay, they take the thinking away from you. Today's cameras. Back then, everything was manually controlled. I go to drone technology. Earlier drones without GPS technology, without altitude hold, without any of the technology that allows you to fly easy, without any flying experience. How does that help you? It doesn't. It doesn't really help you. Okay? That just means that a 3-year-old can get up and fly, without crashing. Optical avoidance. Yeah, it will never hit that wall. It just avoids it. How do you learn? You really don't become a pilot that way. So that's not saying that you have to crash your Cessna plane. Of course not. But you learn. You learn by the seat of your pants. You learn photography by the seat of your pants. You learn printing by the seat of your pants as well. I hope that comes across in a nice way. You know what I mean. Experience is everything, and it comes with practice. A pianist, unless he's born with the ability to play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony at age 3. I knew my boss, an older man, took up the piano late in his years, and no matter what he did, he considered himself terrible. And yet some people can just pick it up and within a year they're playing classicals. Yeah. It's all depending on you, but you have to put in the work as well. My other boss had 2 children. One of them, he could sleep all day, go to school for a few hours, and get straight A's, 4.0 GPA. The other one was the dedicated student, worked like heck, day and night, and got less than top grades, but he considered her the better student. Okay, because this guy can just goof off, take the test, and pass it with an A. He was just a genius. And the geniuses don't have to work that hard. It's us non-genius types that have to work like heck to achieve something, a level of expertise. That's how I learned. I'm not a genius. I mean, it took me 20 years to get to where I'm at here. I mean, the level of knowledge that whatever I have in my head that I'm passing off to all of you guys who view my videos, it took me 20 years to get. I mean, and I forget more than I learn. I mean, half the time. That's what happens when you get old. Anyway, don't get discouraged. It's just a process. You learn it. And again, that word consistency, once you find out, let's just say, and if you just look at my setup videos for driver settings, for instance, just duplicate them, and make sure that your monitor matches. Now, speaking of monitor, this is what I wanted to tell you guys. And I saw a huge discussion about this today, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. This is really going to create a huge flame war in DP review. So this guy who really is an expert in color management, I'm not. This guy truly is. He should write books on the subject. He was talking about calibration of the monitor, okay, as opposed to a profile for the monitor. Now, that would be, without getting into the nitty gritty of that, let me give you an analogy. That would be like my TV upstairs. I have a Samsung, I don't even know what the model is, 55-inch 4K. And it has all these presets that you can set for different moods. So the color, saturation, tint, contrast, sharpness, all of those dials that you can move, that is your calibration. When you set it, when you save that series of adjustments, because it looks really great to your eyeballs, and you set it as a preset, and you call it Joe's night viewing preset, that becomes a profile. And that happens in your monitor. When you calibrate your monitor, you're simply setting adjustments to your monitor, to your display, the way it outputs color, the way it represents your white balance, contrast, illumination, all of that. But then you save it as a profile, because every time you boot your computer up, mine anyway, I see the old unprofiled version of my screen. It looks kind of bright and yellowish, actually, really bad. And then all of a sudden, it loads the profile that contains all of those adjustments. Okay? And I never really thought of it that way. So there is a 2-part situation going here. Your calibration, that means the adjustment of all sorts of parameters, and then taking all of that and compiling it into one little preset, if you will, which officially is called a profile. Okay. And if you profile if your monitor is sRGB like mine is, then that's part of that profile that you save and loads itself when you reboot your computer. Now, some people create multiple types of profiles. Calibrations with profiles, sRGB, maybe a profile for viewing online, maybe a profile for sending prints to Adorama pics in New York, all of that. Yeah, it gets really deep. I'm trying to keep things as simple and not difficult as possible. Okay. Undifficult? Yeah, I don't know what that means. Anyway, you know what I mean. Easy. Easy peasy. So, calibration of the monitor. One of these or one of these. If you can afford one of these, even better. Then once you save it, you go through the process of creating all of your adjustments. It scans all these color patches and figures out how your monitor is incorrectly displaying these color patches because it knows what those values are. It knows them by heart, and it will correct that. Then it will save that. It will create a profile. Okay, you name that profile. Give it whatever name you want, and it will load that profile. Okay, and that's really it. That's the secret, isn't it? The monitor now is displaying this image the way your printer reproduces it. If you can achieve that, that's it. Don't do anything else. You're done. Because now, see, I never told my printer, hey, you need to alter your output. You need to alter it to this or that. No, I let the printer by itself. Pro luster paper, high quality, 11 by 8.5 inch letter size, print. I opened that in Photoshop, in Lightroom, in QImage, print. And I just told the driver to control color, not the application. The driver spit this out. I look at it under these lights. I go, well, dang, that looks really good. That really, truly looks good. Wow, I'm impressed. That little old printer by itself produced this. Now, let me see. Here's the $64,000 question. Does it match what my monitor display? So I go by my monitor, I put it aside, I light this, and I see that it's a little bit yellowish over here than it is over here. This looks neutral, but my display is a little bluish, a little yellowish. All I got to do is reprogram or not reprogram, forgive me, recalibrate the monitor and adjust the white point, in other words, the color balance. If it's too bluish, remove some of that bluish color cast or white point out of it. The white balance is off, in other words. Okay, so you adjust that repeatedly until you go back and you do this check again, and now it matches. What's neutral there? This EM picture right here. Okay, electron microscopy. If that looks neutral and your ramp looks neutral throughout, and the density matches this density, you're all set. Finally, and then you save it. That saves what? That profile with those adjustments. The calibration is nothing but adjustments. Okay? Adjustments it is doing either globally or individually by color patch. This uses 118 color patches. Okay? This really does not. It uses a little bit more than the new software for the i1 Studio uses a little bit more number of color patches than the Color Monkey software did. So all I'm trying to say is that the calibration process is just making adjustments, and then you save those adjustments under a name, and that becomes a monitor profile. Oh, by the way, don't ever print your images through your application like Photoshop through your monitor profile. Okay, that is not a profile for printing. That's a profile for viewing, not for printing. Several people have made that mistake. And it's, they make that mistake because they just don't know any better. It's a profile. It's for my monitor. That's what I use to judge I'm going to use that profile. No, you're not going to use that profile. You're going to use a paper profile, not the monitor profile. They don't get it. But again, it just takes time. It just takes time. And eventually it becomes second nature to you. It really does. Thanks for your tips on printer settings and color inks. This is from Geta. My Canon Pro 100 prints are amazing. That's great. That's what I want to hear. Pimentel Portfolio. Wow, I now long have you been monetized? Since 17. Okay, mid 17s, when actually early 17. So let me just quickly look. I'm not going to show you guys because that's sort of personal info, but I will tell you when I began to make a penny. And so far, all of the drama that I hear from other YouTubers, I really haven't experienced any of that yet. I've had a couple of, go-arounds with, stuff getting copyrighted. But again, that was entirely my fault for uploading music that I shouldn't have added to my videos. Okay, so I can look at my analytics and then just click on lifetime. So I'm going to stay on classic. I'm going to click on lifetime. And that'll give me a display on how long, when did monetization kick in? In other words, when did I become a partner? Do they even have lifetime anymore? Oh, here we go, right on top. So this is going to show us lifetime. And it started, wow, it's still loading. I hope it didn't just freeze up on me. Here we go. Okay, so I got the date right here. On 7/24/16, let's just say from, oh wow, what is this? From 2/1/09 to 7/13/16, I earned this much. Zero. Zip. Nothing. Nada. From that point on, I started earning $4, $7, $6, $9, and so on until the present day. Okay? So that's how long it's been. I became monetized in 7/31/16. So, and again, to achieve that today, you have to reach a certain parameter, if you will. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. You have to have a total of 4,000 watch hours within the last rolling 365 days. Okay. Now, I'm blessed in the fact that some people have a very hard time amassing 4,000 watch hours in the past year, and that's a rolling 365. In other words, tomorrow you lose the first day and you move on. So I'm able to do that in 2 weeks. So again, it will get easier, but you look at how long it took me to even become monetized. So you need to have 4,000 watch hours within the last 365 days and 1,000 subscribers or more. That does not mean you will be monetized. That means that you can qualify for it. You still have to apply, and you will be reviewed and either turned down or allowed to be a partner. Simple as that. So once you get past that, then it's a matter of maintaining those 4,000 watch hours. And the more videos you put up, the more content you put up, and there's a magical number of minutes, somewhere between 10 minutes to 12 minutes in length. Some people put out long videos hoping to have more watch hours, but you may have people dropping off and so on. So it's all about the way that the algorithm looks at everything. And so, like I said, for me, achieving 4,000 watch hours in a year is no problem at all. I can do that in 2 weeks. So I usually achieve that twice that in 1 month. So, but again, that's because I've been around monetized for that long a time, and I've been around before that for many, many years, and people just kind of got used to my content, and that just helps. It's kind of a snowball effect. It's getting past a certain number that is really the most difficult part. So don't get discouraged. Just keep at it. Make it fun. Don't make it work. Like right now for me, it's somewhat of a job, if you will. So I just got to psychologically get past it. You know what helps me get past that? Flying my copters. Man, I just enjoy that. That is such a release of stress and allows me to just do something that at this point is still a ton of fun to do. Okay. Even though I'm creating a few videos here and there, it's still a ton of fun because I'm learning every day. What else can we learn about photo printing? We've reached that pinnacle right now. There's no new products. There's really nothing new to learn unless you're just starting out. Okay. But at this point, and with 22 years practically of experience, what else do I have to learn in this? I learned something new about the Pro 1000. Sure, individual quirks, if you will, idiosyncrasies about that puppy over there. I'm learning every day about that printer. But again, it's the general aspect and uses of photo printers. I'm pretty much done with that. I mean, there's really nothing technologically new about any of these units. It really isn't. Not that I'm aware of anyway. Let's see what else. Chris Williams says, I would still say that a 10 megapixel DSLR picture opened up in Lightroom Photoshop would be so much better than even the latest iPhone picture. Okay, let's not get into the iPhone camera war. I will agree with you as well. My phone takes great pictures, but they can't come close to what my Nikon, even the D3300, which is just a toy camera by comparison to some of the newer models. You can't compare that. I don't want to carry a 2-pound camera and lens around with me. Most of the time, I'll just use my cell phone nowadays. I used to laugh at people that just went on vacation and didn't take a real camera with them. I am one of those dudes now. I take my phone with me, but I know what I'm doing with that phone. People just click. Yeah, I know how to set things. I know how to edit all of those images that I shoot on my phone. I got Photoshop on my phone. Yeah. All right. Charles Verbruggen is 1:00 a.m. Time to go to sleep, my friend. Glad to have you tonight with us. Jeff Thompson, I don't use or have Lightroom back then. Yeah. Lightroom is unusual in that it was created by Jeff Shuey and all those guys from Adobe back in the day who were photographers and got tired of Photoshop becoming more of a graphic arts type program rather than the original intent, which was imaging. So Lightroom, meaning you don't work in the darkroom anymore. Lightroom was created for photographers by photographers. That's their motto. So, and I love it. I use Lightroom for most, if not all, of my editing. It's a non-destructive method to work with your raw files. You don't have to worry about, you can go back, in fact, to any edit point you had along the whole process of a single image. You can go back to any point. Just click on that history, choose the point you want to go back to, and boom, you're there. Okay, and the original file is never affected. And you can make virtual copies. You can do all sorts of things with it. It's amazing. The only thing you don't do is, graphics. You don't add letters or text but then again, that's not what that's for. It's for editing your images and then expertly printing them, period. Pimentel Portfolio, she has a channel. So what if, let me see, right now it's fun I'm not sure I want it to be work. Okay. I know that. Do you have an Anafi? Are you the one that has an Anafi? Tell me real quick here before I go off into something else. I'm going to do a live stream this week. Promise. We're going to talk about Anafi. Okay, if that's who I think you are, and or I know that I thought you have a drone. Maybe you do not. I may have someone else in my head right now. But anyway, and I will be using that other program, that other streaming program, where I will be able to bring other people in. And I would love to have you on the panel so that we can have a mutual conversation with each other and discuss whatever we want to discuss. And also other people will be listening as well, just like you guys are doing now, except you will be able to directly participate, okay, instead of being just isolated to the chat. Thomas Backman says, without knowing all your videos, but some world famous, great or widely known pictures, black and white color, how would you print them? Paper size, margin, frame, etc. Not so much technical, but more artistic. Yeah, that again is just so subjective or objective. Objective, yeah, it depends on the person. I have my ways. Go back. Let me suggest this to you. I have a playlist called Print, Show, and Tell. Okay, I got like 25 videos in that playlist. Okay, and I show you all my work that I did before I even started doing videos for the channel. Okay, let me see if I can find that for you. I hope this allows me to show you this. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and post the link. I hope this works, to the playlist. Go ahead and click on that playlist later on, not now. Save it, bookmark it, whatever. And I take you through, again, oh no, I'm wrong, 32 videos. All of them about all of the work that I have produced in the last 20 or so years. Oh man, there's a lot of stuff here I haven't even addressed yet. Okay, for those of you, Jeff Thompson says, for those of you wanting to print panoramas on the Pro 1000 with the new driver update, how realistic and or problematic is paper feeding handling going to be? It's going to be a pain, okay? It might be more than a pain. Think about it. You have 40 plus inches. The idea behind printing something long like that and why it works best with a roll is because that roll never shifts. It never becomes skewed. Okay. At 47 inches of length, a tiny little fraction of a skew in the beginning will be magnified greatly. When it reaches finally the 47 inches, heck, it might even cause a jam. You got to be so frigging careful. Okay. So again, this might be amazing feature in this update, but it might open up a can of worms because again, you're going to have to be so careful. You're going to have to be able to trim that length of paper so that the leading edge is exactly, and I mean exactly 90 degrees to the sides. Then you have to load it. Okay. If you load it from the top feeder, again, you may have introduced a skew, okay, which will be magnified again. You may not see it on a short print, but you will definitely see it on a long print, especially if you print with narrow borders. You will see it. the border will change width along its length. If you feed through the manual feeder, even worse, because the manual feeder is going to feed that paper forward, it's going to scan the front edge, and it's going to say, oh, rejected, it's crooked, take it back out, try again. You will be trying over and over until you get it right, and all of this paper handling will damage the surface possibly. It depends on how gentle you are. But I just don't see how they can make this easy enough for just anybody to be able to do it without any problems. There's going to be a lot of upset people trying to do this correctly. I had a heck of a problem with just 13 by 26 on my Pro 100 when I did that video showing you how to do a panorama on the Pro 100. Same thing. I had to feed it like 3 times before it accepted it, because it's got to detect that front edge, and as it scans that edge, if the position changes, that means the paper is crooked or the edge is crooked. It's not 90 degrees to the edges of the sides of the piece of paper you just cut. So you not only have to cut it, but you have to go to a really accurate trimmer and trim or dress that front edge so that it is perfect. Okay. Good luck. Good luck is all I can say. The best thing that I can say, and Red River has some 13 by 37 inch paper or something like that. That's already pre-cut, and it is assumed that it's going to be accurate. But cutting your own 17 inch by whatever from roll, you got to deal with the curl problem and feeding it straight, because even if it accepts it the first time, you may end up with a skewed border. What are you going to do? Take a big straight edge and retrim everything? Oh man, yeah, no. I don't know. Since I'm not going to do it, I'll be waiting for you guys to tell me how it works out. Actually, let me see. Somebody here posted an interesting question. Jeff, it would be an interesting test. The photo size on a DSLR sensor are definitely superior to what they can put on a camera phone. So I think you meant, yeah, okay. We get what you mean. But let me tell you, there was an exhibit that was done back one of the earlier, not too long ago, but a couple of years ago. I think it was an iPhone, what are we at now? 11? Maybe the 8 or 9. And they made 2 by 3 foot posters. All of them shot with the iPhone. But again, whoever did this test wasn't just Jane Blow or Joe Blow, who doesn't know a thing about computers or that's why they buy a Mac, because it makes everything so easy for these people. That's why they buy an iPhone. Everything is easy. Okay, you don't have to really be a genius, techie person. But then you really don't know how to shoot because you're not really a trained photographer. So they took trained photographers. This is not saying anything bad about Mac, of course. They took some really good trained photographers, gave them the new iPhone, and they went out and shot gorgeous images. And they were printed to 2 by 3 feet posters, and they were flawless. Okay? Can you do that with a DSLR? Of course you can. Of course. But again, it's all about the equipment, of course, and extracting the most you can out of it. Okay? And the only way you could do that is if you know what you're doing. Like I said, it's not just some guy, those people that stand in line forever waiting for the new release. I never got that. Why do you have to have it tonight? Just wait 6 months until it comes out. People that update their computers, OS, the second it's out. And then you can't print all of a sudden. Yeah. Don't do that. Take your time. Be more, deliberate. But again, yeah. So are you saying that the iPhone cannot take beautiful photographs that can be enlarged to poster size? Again, It's only the photographer can extract the maximum quality of whatever that sensor in the iPhone happens to be able to capture. Or any other phone for that matter. Pimentel says, if you got a 3D printer, what would you produce? I would produce all sorts of accessories for my drones. I can download all sorts of 3D files. Okay. I would produce accessories for my printing to hold bottles, to hold this or that. This chair is not as comfortable as I originally thought. Yeah, all sorts of cool things you can make with 3D printing. If I'm into designing things, I want to make a prototype. The old way would be to hire a tool and die man, pay him about $20,000, and have him produce a couple of molds for you, which you would then create a couple of prototypes and find out they don't work as you thought they would work. You can just immediately test that on a 3D printer. Now, if you're really good at CAD type programming and creation of these types of 3D type files, then there's no limit to what you can do with it. Really no limit. Okay, let's see. Jeff Thompson, for those of you wanting to print, okay, that was panorama problem with the Pro 1000. Okay. Oh, okay. Got it. John Hamby, thanks for the great show. Need to run for tonight. Have a great week. All right. Thank you for hanging out with us, my friend. Bruce Wallace, should you create profiles for day and night? You mean for your monitor? No. You know why? See, my environment here never changes day or night. So right now I got the lights off, but normally I have no windows. The windows are covered. I have a blind that I can raise or lower on my door. I close both the rear door and the shop door, and this door is open right now, but normally that's closed as well. So when I'm editing, I have a 60-watt bulb in this room. That is it. No other light is entering this room, and that's how I edit. Okay, there's a little bit of light from the stairway coming down, spilling down, but that doesn't affect my edit. So I don't have a day or night profile. My CD M2 luminosity is at 80. Most people, it's 120, 130, 140. That's too bright. That's why your prints are too dark, because you're darkening your images subconsciously until they look good on that very bright monitor. Guess what you're feeding your printer? Dark images. That's why they print dark. If the printer produces this from an unedited perfect image like this one, and this looks correct, the printer's working. The printer is producing what it gets. So when you give it something that is edited down a stop or two darker than it should be, it's going to produce a dark print. And then it looks dark compared to your monitor because your monitor is too bright. Okay, you need to set up an environment for your editing that is constant, not variably changing during the day. Your editing will go crazy. You will not be able to create anything that is consistent whatsoever. Okay, professional studios have a dedicated room for editing. Okay, and it's dark. You can't even read a book. It's so dark. Okay, a little bit lighter than a theater when they're actually showing the movie. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? But that's how they work. And that's how I learned. I found that out years and years ago. Speaking of iPhone printed images, I remember that some of the iPhone ads and Samsung ads were actually taken with a DSLR and passed off as smartphone prints. That may have been the case. All I can say is that the ad absolutely said that it was taken with a smartphone. If that was the case, and that was a huge cheating job, okay? and they should have been called out for that. Simple as that. I mean, that I would really hate to have seen that happening. Anyway, I wouldn't put it past these advertisers and these companies at all. That's really, I never knew that was the case, but again, I just remember that back in the day when I saw those ads. Let me see what else we can cover here. I don't even have a video to show you. It's my last flying job here. Let's see, anything new in the comments? Why not? I'll just show you a very quick little video, one that I just did, excuse me, the other day. And I'm going to be taking some more photographs with the Anafi. So let me cue this up here a second. Oh, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Oh, I knew what I was going to ask you guys. Would you like to see more videos about image editing, different types of categories of images? That might be a good subject to start. I like to start a new series that is more educational in nature, like more of a tutorial base, instead of just spewing out information about the printer does this and you do this. I like to go ahead and do that if it's something that would be, of interest. Okay. So I took it out the other day, and as you guys may know, I'm using neutral density filters now. In normal photography, you would use a neutral density filter under certain conditions where there's just too much light, for instance, to shoot something at a very slow shutter speed, like for instance, maybe several seconds, maybe a sunset, and you have water splashing. You want to turn that water into something that looks more like mist. So anything that is non-movable would still look sharp, even shooting at, say, 5-second or 10-second exposure. But everything that's moving is just going to blend into what looks like actually mist flowing where there should be water. And it just, gives it a very interesting look. Now, for you to be able to shoot a 5-second exposure, even when your aperture is, say, maximum f22, you would need, an incredibly small aperture, which then would introduce all kinds of artifacts to your image. So you want to shoot at a good aperture, like f8, which will never permit you to use a shutter speed of 10 seconds. So that's where a neutral density filter comes in. And you maybe put a neutral density 32 on your lens, and that will block a lot of the light, which would then allow you to use f8, which is probably the best aperture for that particular lens, and slow your shutter speed down to several seconds, maybe 5, 6, 7, or 8 seconds. And that will give you enough time to capture that motion blur that the water will create as it's going in and out, waves and such. Well, in videography, it's a different problem. When you have a camera that is movable and you're going from left to right or right to left, remember that shutters on cameras operate by, they call it a global shutter, or I think it's a rotational type shutter. And so if you're moving from left to right, you might get a different effect than if you're moving from right to left between frames. Okay, so the problem with drones is that the shutter speed normally used for a frame of video capture will probably be in the neighborhood of about 1/2000th of a second. Like 2/2000th of a second would literally just freeze that image, instead of providing a bit of motion blur like a real motion picture camera would do. The motion picture camera exposes each frame at a 48th of a second. And so you adjust your light hitting your film by adjusting your aperture on your camera lens, or introducing or not neutral density filters to be able to, arrive at a good aperture, say in a condition that the lighting is very bright, and you would have to shoot at f16, but you really want to shoot at f8 because f8 is a better aperture. Okay, it will give you the best results. As you get smaller and smaller and smaller, you start introducing all these diffraction artifacts and other chromatic aberrations and so forth, unless you have really, really super expensive glass. So when you fly, you want to have a shutter speed that matches the frame rate, but times 2. Okay, so if the frame rate is, say, 30, then you want a 1/60th of a second shutter speed. Well, you might not be able to achieve that because it might be so bright out that the shutter speed automatically sets itself to like 1/2000th of a second. So you have to put on a neutral density filter that is dense enough to allow the camera to then operate at 1/60th of a second and get that motion blur that you're looking for. So this particular, long story short, we'll get to this in a second. I use a neutral density 16 right now, and this brought it down to 125th of a second. So it's not perfect, but good enough for this test. You can see how how smooth it is as I am rising up. You don't see the flickering that you would normally see when you're shooting at a super high shutter speed. You would literally see a flicker between frames because this is 50 frames a second. There will be no motion blur between the frames. Remember, our brains remember the last frame before they even see the new frame. So they're still seeing the previous frame. So you want to add a certain amount of slight motion blur. And like I said, ideally you need shutter speed that is twice the frame rate. So if it was 24, then 1/48th. If it was 30, 1/60th. If it was 60, 120th of a second. So those cars that were just driving by would be flickering instead of just a smooth travel. And I see that so much in a lot of videos on YouTube. Another thing that you have to understand, notice the blur. You see that? Something else you have to understand is that we're shooting 4K 100 megabit per second rate here, data rate. You need a extreme micro SD to be able to accept the rate of information being written to that card. Otherwise, you're going to have flickering that is not even due to shutter speed problems. You're going to have missing frames because it can only write so much, then it'll just jump to the next set of data and it will then omit whatever it just could not write. It's like you trying to keep up with an assembly line that's going faster than you can actually bag those items inside a box. So notice as I am coming down how smooth the motion is. In other words, between frames you don't see any flickering. So that's the whole idea of using neutral density filters. And that's just to just cut down the amount of light entering the lens so you can use the proper shutter speed. I hope you guys enjoyed this little short video. I think it's time to go, folks. Yeah, a lot of you are in other countries that need to go to bed. Let's see who we have. Levite Apparel, he just dropped a $2 super chat for us. Thank you so much, my friend. Frank Dorr from Manitoba, Canada. I hope you didn't just land here at this point because we're about to say so long to everybody. Again, remember you guys, we are on at 5 p.m. every Saturday evening. That is Eastern Standard Time. soon to be daylight savings time in a few more weeks, I believe. So we'll make adjustments for that to allow the European folks who may not be changing the time at the same time we do to be able to join us at a reasonable time. Like I would like to start, say, like 4 in the afternoon U.S. time. That'll give you guys in Europe a bit more time to hang out with us, not have to go to bed. A lot of you may be working tomorrow. Or not, maybe. It's Sunday tomorrow. So anyway, thank you so much again. Let's see if there's anything else we need to cover here. And if not, again, like I always say, keep watching. Search those videos. Playlists are there. You will find everything you need to find. I guarantee it. And if you cannot find something, just contact me via either comment on a video or via email. I will put my email here for you guys. Or if you're joined the Facebook group, just ask our group. I think we have over 3,000 something members now. So that is a really good source of information. And again, these folks are so willing to help out. That is just makes my job a lot easier. I really don't have to do much. All right, here's my email address, my personal address. You can contact me anytime you want, right there. All right, let me get my goodbye graphic up here, and we'll go ahead and play some music. The same music we played at the beginning. Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Until the next time, happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.